broken bigger, where crimes are baked in every show. Mysteries rise and truth unfolding. Ready, set, it's time to go. We say it's time to go. Whistling clues, battering news, makes the story solving the lies. In this kitchen, secrets are broken, with a spark in our eyes. In the broken baker's kitchen, where secrets crumble like sunrise, we'll sift through clues to find the news. With a spark in our eyes, the broken arrives. Broken arrives. Welcome to the broken baker. Get ready. Let's go.
I'm Jimmy. How y'all doing?
The most important people in this case that everybody seems to have forgotten in this room is the jury. So we're going to take a 15-minute break and both sides take a pregnant pause and think about the jury.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whoever you are, whatever you are, wherever you are. I can't even get my intro right anymore. Am I getting dementia? Should I be concerned? Maybe I should try sleep. How you all doing this fine morning? And thanks to those people who swung by and helped me get through a 2 a.m. stream last night. So nice of you to support a new streamer. There's no such thing as too much Jimmy. That's what Lauren said. So she went back in her short shorts and got a second helping of Jimmy. Yeah, I'm losing it. I'm doing fine. I got 4 hours of sleep. Well, I got 2 hours and then I got 1 hour and then I got 1 hour. I might be loopy, but at least I'm not as loopy as that streamer I saw that said Sarah Boone is innocent. If I survive this stream, we might do. It's a short stream they had yesterday, the hearing yesterday for the other lawyers who were trying to get the money for representing her. But there's also filed a 5-page motion that I'm pretty sure that before the end of the day, either Marissa or Jess will have found for me, and we may be able to look at that and say, ¿Dónde está la cerebro? Because the judge told them, ain't no such thing as your civil rights have been trampled on. It's lack of sleep. It might be, but I made a new. I don't know. She could put that on a t-shirt. The Crazy Bees. Hey, Fedorowski. Was the stream visit a success last night? That's in the eye of the beholder. I had fun. I met a new person. That's the most important thing. Getting new people and helping smaller creators out. Now I'm a big creator or whatever I am, a medium. Well, I haven't been a medium since I went to school. And today we have Legally Blonde who will be in the courtroom. I've sent her a link. If she can figure out how to phone in at some point, she will tell us about what's going on in the courtroom. I have told her, don't use your phone in the courtroom. So I hope everything goes good. Hey, Pernilla, Helen from Holland. Watch her. I have the best intro on YouTube. Well, I had plans to put in Gangster Granny's scream as well, but let's just say I haven't been up to it today. Yes, it's a different format than I'm used to and stuff like that, but like I did with Ada K and stuff like that. When people are reaching out and say, "Hey, you want to come help me out a bit? Maybe impart some of my wisdom on them." I like that. That's why I do the Stabber Days with. That's why I not so many people are signing up for an angel spot. I don't know. I haven't done coke. My nose is just really itchy. But maybe I should do it. Maybe I'll make me a bigger streamer. Probably not. Don't do that. Um, but I think one of the things I have benefited from was bigger creators giving me a leg up and being willing to cooperate. So it's also my duty to help other people out. And who knows? There might be another wonderful, could be the next Brandy Churchwell, or could be the next legal vices out there that just needs that little bit of eyes on them so they can be bigger. Oh, it could be the Fedorowski, who everyone should go follow because he has the best nature videos on the YouTubes. Hey, Lorraine and Debbie. Shaquille Oatmeal. A Scorpio from Maine. Scorpio of the sea is a lobster, which also lives in Maine. What shall Toby do today? The only thing I think he hasn't done yet is fight his lawyer in court. Hey, out and about. I was laughing in bed last night listening to you all talking about Gangster Granny. Maybe I should have been Gangster Granny instead of Grumpy Granny. If you can scream like her and you can wear a DuckTales t-shirt. Oh, I got, on Instagram, you get those commercial thingies. I got recommended something Queety or something. I don't know, probably Chinese. They had Middle Earth Hiking Club. As a guy who hates all three Lord of the Rings movie because it's nothing but walking, I should get that t-shirt. But I'm just afraid it's some weird Chinese scam to get my credit card. Hey, Christine and Texas Brand. Yes, go and check out. You probably never will go to Norway, but you can go there with Fedorowski, and he gives you a very, very beautiful look of Norway. Norway is a beautiful country. I should go there. Gangster Granny was the neighbor, yes, the screamer. He did. They were having that was when the lead detective was on. He was ending, and after the redirect, the judge asked any other questions. He wanted to go back to evidence number 66 because there was a stick on it, and they had another sidebar. His lawyer came down and talked to him, and they started arguing when the court ended. After the jury came out, they were arguing, and then the judge turned around and said, no, the lawyer turned around and said to the camera, "Don't record this." So it probably would have been a good day. I've been just watching the Constitution. I don't know this one. Hello, Anne. Yes, it's. Don't ask me why we are still here. I think yesterday, state wasted so much time to put in non-essential evidence, and you can say, well, they need to do it if there's an appeal and blah blah blah. But we were discussing shoes and shoe prints, and we had a lot of pictures with a lot of blood on it, and we had his bloody clothes and her holes with her clothes with holes in it. I think we'll be fine. Should we have a pre-trial? We can do a pre-trial. Oh, I should do something else. What will he do? Cry only, cry and yell. I'm gonna abbreviate this because I don't have as many characters in this. cry and yell and fight his lawyer. Now we have a poll. Hey, Rona. A crying confession is a confession just the same. Well, any confession is a confession. And again, they only played a really bad video. They should have had the one I have been showing, which I think is someone in court recording him. I don't think it's the official feed, but they should have that video because it's way clearer what he says, and his motion with the hand seems more like a stabulation motion. Well, it was too late for me to be on there, but sometimes that's the worst part of living in Europe. We can't do those evening shows. Everyone is always asking me, "Oh, did you see Turtle Boy last night? Did you see the Young Jerks?" And I'm no, because they go live at 2 a.m. my time, and yeah, I miss a lot of stuff on that account. Hey, Gata. Instead of Wild Rebel yell, we need to hear Wild Granny yell. Yeah, but I was too tired this morning. I have the timestamp. I will, you know me, I will incorporate it somewhere. Yes, thank you for joining and seeing us. Yeah, I want to see him fight his lawyer. Looks like he can duke it out. He's a little, so I want to see them fight. Yeah, I just want him to, because he started talking yesterday and he wanted redirects because he wanted evidence number 66. There's a stick on it. And again, what if any relevance does that have? Yes, Turtle Boy has a hearing tomorrow. I don't know if this will be over. We might, if there is a feed up for it, try and cover that. It's most of the Turtle Boy stuff have been on Zoom, and MLS have been covering Turtle Boy more than I have. So I don't know if he's going to do it. Blessed on Madden replay was in a movie Replacements. Yeah, we got a fat guy a touchdown, and we got a fat guy end zone dance. That's the guy who used to be a sumo wrestler. Great movie. We should watch that sometime. Falco scores. Exactly. You are in the courtroom. Thank you, Legally Blonde, for signing in. If they didn't have Hair Daddy on the stand yesterday, then all the ladies in here haven't been able to drool. Not me, of course. He wasn't my style. Well, Shore Life. That's what I say all the time too. MLS will try to stream it. Then I will defer to his expertise. But whenever I drool over Sarah Boone, everyone is saying, "Oh, why? Alky legs, alky legs, short little shorts and alky legs." Hey, Melanie. I have that movie on the movie night list. Oh, it's a great movie. I'm not that old. Have you went up there and said he turned at Moist O'Clock in the Broken Bakers stream yesterday? Hey, Pebbles. Bridget, Gluten Morgan as well to you. He does not smell like hot dog water. No, well, there was the guy who jumped the judge. Hey, Sully. Yeah, I think you'll have to contact court and get a Zoom feed. I know the Glera is always having the Zoom feed. Yes. Give them Julie Fraser's socials. Hey, Regina. I can do commentary. I can do, my God, he just killed him, like good old JR. Yes, the guy who ended up. I was looking at covering that case, and then I found out it's Vegas. I'm gonna stay up till 2 a.m. Ain't no, nope. Um, oh, he's already started. He's already started. Come on, turn on the audio. Yes.
Okay, good morning.
Good morning, Your Honor.
We're here in the state of Ohio versus Toby Madden, CR 22-121675. The jurors are not present. Mr. Burris and Mr.
I have
Hahn and
missed the poll.
Detective Horton are present on behalf of the state. The defendant appears in person, the counsel, Mr. Wilder.
Poll is 46% believes he will cry, yell, and fight his lawyer. Only 15% believe he will only stick to crying.
Before we bring in the jury, is there anything on behalf of the state of
Oh,
Ohio?
legally blonde.
Just for scheduling purposes, I was going to have 3 witnesses here this morning to fill up the morning. One of them had an issue that came up, so he will be here first thing tomorrow morning. So I anticipate the
Why?
Dr. Updegrove will testify today. Detective Doug Tran will testify today. I think they're probably still going to take up the majority of the morning. Then I will have 2 or 3 witnesses tomorrow, so we anticipate
Why?
resting before the noon hour tomorrow morning.
Okay, thank you for
Why?
updating us on the schedule.
Yes, Your Honor, thank you.
Anything on behalf of you, your client, Mr. Wilder?
Not at this moment. Thank you.
Okay, let's go ahead and bring in the jurors.
Well, he was so vocal. He admitted to doing it the first day. Yeah, he has been fighting them in court before. He's been thrown out. She's threatened him with throwing him out both days too. So he's a special little snowflake. But why is the state going to waste 5 more witnesses? We don't need 5 more.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Does anyone have any violations of the court's recess instructions that they need to report? Okay. All right, Mr. Burris, you may call your next witness. Thank you. Or Mr. Hahn, thank you.
Statement called Dr. Rachelle Brewsaugh.
Well, we're going to have an ME to talk about that, what they found on the body or the injuries. Then, I don't know, 5 more witnesses. Again, I don't understand American lawyers. They like to, they spend way too much time. That tie doesn't go with that suit.
You may proceed.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
We'll tell everyone your name and spell your last name, please.
Russell Updegrove. Last name's Uptegrove.
All right. And, how are you currently employed, sir?
I'm a forensic pathologist at the Hamilton County Coroner's Office in Blue Ash.
Okay. Do you provide services to any other counties besides Hamilton County?
Well, I mean, in my position in Hamilton County, we perform autopsies for some other counties, although Butler County is not one of those. However, historically, probably for about 19 years now, I've been sort of the backup pathologist here. Back when Dr. Swinehart was a pathologist, when he'd go out of town, I would fill in. And now that Dr. Utz is the primary pathologist, I will fill in Butler County whenever he's out of town.
Okay. All right. And so you said you've been doing that, filling in Butler County for 19 years. Is that
Yes.
correct? Okay. And have you ever worked in Warren County?
I'm actually the Warren County elected coroner.
Okay. And how long have you been in that position?
I was elected in 2007.
All right. Could you please explain to the jury what is forensic pathology?
Well, forensic pathology entails doing autopsies on individuals, typically for non-natural circumstances. I mean, people that are in the hospital and may die of cancer.
This is just a yada yada about what is a forensic. Can we discuss this? Is he going for a mullet and a pompadour at the same time? And I'm sorry, but his hair looks like this guy had at least Budweiser for breakfast. So does the eye bags he has. But a mullet and a pompadour. Bold choice, Cotton. Let's see if it works.
Or complications from stroke and heart disease, emphysema, things of that nature, typically aren't
Yes, in some counties they elect their coroners.
reported to a coroner's office. So from forensic pathology perspective, we're doing autopsies on people that are dying suddenly and unexpectedly without any significant medical history, people who have some sort of trauma, whether it be from a motor vehicle crash or a fall, and obviously things that may involve criminal activity, gunshot wounds, blunt force injury, stab wounds, things of that nature.
Okay. And you just describe to the jury what your educational background is and educational experience as it relates to forensic pathology?
Yeah, I graduated from Clemson University in South Carolina and with my undergraduate degree, and then I attended and graduated from the Medical University of South Carolina in Charleston, South Carolina. Because of my interest in forensic pathology, I completed a residency in anatomic and clinical pathology at the Medical University in Charleston, and also completed a forensic pathology fellowship at the Charleston County Medical Examiner's Office. And then after completion of my training, I relocated to Ohio in July of 1999 and started working as a forensic pathologist at the Montgomery County Coroner's Office, which is in Dayton.
Okay. So how long in total would you say you've been a forensic pathologist?
Well, since July of 1999, when I began working full-time in Dayton.
Okay. And if you know, how many autopsies do you think you've performed in your career?
Well, it might be 50 or 75 off, but it's about 8,450 to this.
As long as it's more than one, you're more qualified than anyone else. Come on. Hey, this part.
Point.
Okay. All right. And have you previously been called in court to testify as an expert in forensic pathology?
Yes, I've been called several times here actually in Butler County over the years.
Okay. How many times in total? Just an estimate of how many times you've been an expert in forensic pathology.
Okay. Well, as far as my autopsies, I keep very detailed logs. That's why I can tell you almost exactly how many autopsies I've done. I don't specifically list every time I've testified in court, but I know prior to COVID, I averaged anywhere from 8 to 10 times a year. And obviously from when I started to COVID, that was about 20 years. And then obviously there was a little bit of a downtime, and now things are starting to pick back up again. So it's over, 200 times, by now, since I first.
It's only on OnlyFans I'm known as Naker. I am Baker on this platform.
First started here in Ohio.
Okay. And is that all of those times you testified as an expert, has that been in Ohio or other states too?
Well, since that time, the majority have been in Ohio, but because of the time when I was working in Dayton, we did contractual work for some of the counties in Indiana. So I've testified in Indiana. Just last week, or 2 weeks ago, I testified in Kentucky from an incident where someone was brought into Ohio, testified in federal court in Columbus and federal court in Cincinnati. So I've had a lot of different experiences.
Your Honor, at this time I would ask that Dr. Obliger be declared as an expert in forensic pathology.
Judge, I have no voir dire for this witness concerning his expert qualifications. There's no objection to his testifying as an expert.
Thank you. All right, the witness will be qualified as requested.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Doctor, what is an autopsy?
Well, an autopsy involves an external examination where you look at the body and make note of any kind of identifying marks on the body, and any type of medical intervention, personal property on the body. We photograph the body, make diagrams. The internal examination, which is the more lengthy of that process, involves removal of all the internal organs, looking for trauma, looking for evidence of natural disease processes like cancer, any kind of congenital abnormalities, anything that could potentially cause a sudden unexpected death. During the course of the internal examination, we obtain specimens, blood, urine if available, vitreous fluid from the eyes in order to be submitted for toxicological analysis to see what any foreign substances are in the body. And if necessary, some very small pieces of tissue obtained during the course of the autopsy can further be submitted to our histology lab so we could have some glass slides produced if there was something that we needed to look at under the microscope to make some sort of determination as to the cause of death. So it's an external exam, internal exam, toxicological analysis.
My dad used to, when they delivered Steph to the morgue, back in the day, it was more everyone pitched in at the hospital when they needed someone. So if they needed someone to help out a little bit, they might have helped the coroner do an autopsy. And he said he called them death doctors. He never met one who wasn't the weirdest person in the world. And back then, and only in my town, of course, because this is not universal, it's just his opinion. All of them had some kind of problem, because he said they were doctors. People who like cutting up dead people are something's wrong with them, and some of them enjoyed it a little bit too much. He also told me he sometimes assisted at our operations, and it was totally fine to smoke a pipe in there. Couldn't smoke cigarettes because that could put ash into whatever they were operating, but you could smoke your pipe in the operating room. Different times back in the 60s.
And possibly histology or tissue analysis.
Okay, thank you. I want to direct your attention to October 12th of 2022. At that time, were you asked to perform an autopsy on the body of Rachelle Brewsaugh?
I was, yes.
Okay. And where was that autopsy performed at?
At the Butler County Morgue here in the city of Hamilton.
Okay. And did you take photographs? I believe you said as part of an autopsy you take photographs. But during Rachelle's autopsy, did you photograph the body in that autopsy?
Well, I personally did not take the pictures. Typically, it's either the investigator or the morgue assistant who is assisting with the autopsy is the one that actually takes the photographs under my direction. Yes.
Okay. Would those photos aid you in your testimony today?
Yes.
If I may approach the witness.
You may.
This. All right, Doctor, if you would take a look, please, at exhibits 178 through 205, and just flip through them and take a look at all those and let me know when you're done looking at them. Thank you.
And I'm sorry, Mr. Wilder, I didn't show them to you, but it's 178 through 205 on the.
Okay, yeah, I got it on my computer. Thank you.
Hey, Kimbers. They have a sheriff's officer standing directly behind Toby, and they brought the Big Daddy cop. Dude looks like he could wrestle an alligator and win. Legally Blonde is our in-house court reporter today.
Have you had a chance to look at all those?
Yes, it did.
Okay. And generally speaking, what are exhibits 178 through 205 photos of?
These are photos that were taken during the course of the autopsy.
Okay.
Some of them are external photographs, and some of them are a few of the internal organs.
Okay. And these are photos taken during Rachelle Brewsaugh's autopsy that you performed, correct?
Yes.
All right. And these, are they true, fair, and accurate depictions of the autopsy you performed on Rachelle's body?
Yes.
Your Honor, I would ask that States Exhibits 178 through 205 be admitted and be allowed to publish.
Mr. Wilder?
We have a brief sidebar.
Sure.
A brief sidebar. Thank you, Unbossed Aussie, for becoming a member. Let's speed this up because is he going to ask to be removed from the courtroom now? They're going to show the pictures because he's going to cry. Bum, 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 bum. Thank you so much. And thank you, Becca, for the corner kiss. Again, I don't get the notifications from that stupid app while I'm live. So thank you so much for the corner kiss yesterday. He is pouting, not crying. I just hope he does it, and then we go on and get. I don't want to waste another. No, I didn't fart. It was my arm on my desk. I don't want to waste another day with witnesses. Just get the ME in and get it over with. We had the lead detective. We had the ME. We have seen the pictures. Boom. Let's do it. Some family member just came into the courtroom and he's hit his face.
You may continue.
Did you? Well, I guess you made the ruling on the
Yes,
site.
I'm
Okay. All right.
including all of the photographs of step 198, for which I'm reserving ruling.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. And you may publish the other
Okay, thank you.
photographs.
All right. Doctor, before we get to the exhibits, as part of your duties, do you create a report for each autopsy you perform for the Butler County Coroner's Office?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And I guess you do that for any county you perform an autopsy in, correct?
Yes.
All right. Did you generate a report for the autopsy of Rachelle Brewsaugh?
Yes, I did.
And is that report kept in the ordinary course of business for the Butler County Coroner's Office?
Yes.
Okay. And would that report aid you in your testimony to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury here today?
Yes, it would.
Okay. May I approach the witness stand? This is
It's one of them.
206. Doctor, we leave you State's Exhibit 206. Can you please take a look at that and identify Exhibit 206? And is that, what is that exhibit?
It is a copy of the autopsy report, which I created, and there's also a copy of the toxicology report, which I personally do not generate. The specimens that are submitted are recovered during the autopsy, but obviously the testing is done by a toxicological laboratory.
It's part of your report, though, the toxicology report?
Well, it's included
Okay.
in the exhibit, and I certainly use that information when making decision about the cause and manner of death, but I'm
Okay.
just clarifying that I did not generate that toxicology report.
All right. Is Exhibit 206, though, a true and accurate, fair representation of the original that you created in the toxicology report that you received to aid you in your autopsy in determining a cause and manner of death?
Yes, it is.
Okay. I would ask that State's Exhibit 206 be admitted and permission to publish it at any time if needed. I don't believe I will, but.
I have a brief.
Sure.
Summary.
Sidebar, we all going to the sidebar. It's the autopsy report. You can't keep it out. What are you trying to hide? That's the thing. No, I can't see how they think they can keep the. I don't know. I don't get this, lawyer.
Okay, so 2 of those 6 will be admitted without the toxicology report.
Okay, thank you, Ron. Dr. Grove, can you please explain to the jury the process of performing an autopsy, starting with the moment you receive the body?
No, don't do that.
Well, the external examination is what happens first, and it's a combination of writing
Well, that's a
things
good job.
down, documenting things, hair color, eye color, any kind of scars or other identifying marks, whether there's any medical intervention on the body, any obvious injuries. And those things are also documented via photographs that either the investigator or the autopsy assistant may take. So once the external exam has been completed, we begin the internal exam. And as I alluded to earlier, that involves removal of the internal organs. So in a case like this, when I can clearly see that there's been multiple stab wounds on the outer surface of the body, we're looking at documenting and identifying any type of internal injuries or damage, which organs may or may not be affected from these stab wounds. In addition to that, again, we're looking for things like coronary artery disease, cancer, cirrhosis of the liver, other types of diseases that may involve other organs in the body, any obvious sign of infection. So after the organs are removed,
Everyone can plead not guilty and waste a whole lot of the court's time and a lot of taxpayer money. That's the beauty about the justice system.
weighed and dissected individually. And then after the autopsy, the majority of the tissue is then returned.
No, insanity please. Well, you would have to have taken so many drugs that you are constantly in an altered state. Voluntary inebriation isn't a defense. It's the same as saying, well, I was only driving down that sidewalk because I was drunk. I wouldn't have done it if I wasn't drunk. You chose to be drunk.
Turned to the body. We retain a few small pieces, like I said earlier. In the event we need to do a microscopic examination, we have small pieces of tissue that can be submitted if that was necessary. And then after the toxicology testing is completed, then the autopsy report would be finalized. So I don't finalize a report until I've got the final toxicology report to make sure that you're not surprised by some significantly elevated drug or other substance present in the body.
Okay. And can you just take us through the physical description of Brewsaugh's body?
She was 65 inches in height, which is 5'5", and she was 232 pounds. Again, it was fairly obvious because of the number of stab wounds present on her head, her chest, her abdomen, her arms, one on her leg, on her back, that she had sustained multiple stab wounds. So again, this is one of these types of cases where just during the initial external examination, it was fairly obvious to me as far as what the cause of death was going to be.
Okay. Just start showing you the photos and go through those now. You can see Exhibit 1.
Hey, Swifty, and Sammy spills the tea. This is the death doctor. It's the guy who did the autopsy, and he's now just talking about it because they had a toxicology report they kind of want to have him talk about, which he can't talk about. So this is in Ohio, and we have a channel member in court today.
70. Doctor, obviously it's on the screen there in front of you and should be, I think it's on the screen in front of you, isn't it? Okay.
Yes.
And then on the big screen there, can you please explain to the jury what we're looking at in State's Exhibit 178?
Okay, this is a placard. Again, that's not my handwriting on there, but the people at the Butler County Coroner's Office in the morgue will write the case number, which is that 22-1012 is the case number that was assigned to this, and it has the decedent's name, and it has the date that the autopsy was performed, October 12th, 2022, and of course, Dr. Lee Manning is the coroner for Butler County.
Okay, thank you. If we could go to 179. And please describe Exhibit 179.
All right, this is something that you do in all the autopsies, basically taking a shot of the face in order for identification purposes, because some of the times when we do autopsies on people, they're not identified at the time. So it's nice to have a photograph of the person's face for potentially identification purposes. In this particular case, it also documents that there is an injury on her nose that can be visualized here.
Okay.
It's a bad feed from the courtroom. I can't do anything. We are even a little behind, so it should be clearer. So we had that in the Carly Gregg case one of the days too. That it's just bad feed from Lawn and Crim.
180, please. And tell us what we're looking at in State's Exhibit 180, please.
Okay.
Okay,
Objection.
if anyone cannot compose themselves in the courtroom, then they're going to need to leave the courtroom.
And tell us what we're looking at in State's Exhibit 180, please.
Okay.
Okay,
Objection.
That's Jen. This was someone yelling "bastard" in the courtroom. Legally Blonde, it's not you. I told you, behave. We know he has been very communicative with his family. I don't know, he might have turned around and done something or whatever happened, but yeah. This case has everything, doesn't it?
anyone cannot compose themselves in the courtroom, then they're going to need to leave the courtroom. Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Hahn.
I'm sorry.
Jamie, are you in Ohio?
What?
Are you in Ohio?
No.
Coffee Nut thought it was you yelling at court.
Me?
You didn't hear it?
No.
Let's go back.
Tell us what we're looking at in State's Exhibit 180, please.
Okay.
Okay,
So that's apparently sounds like you, Jamie.
I mean, it kind of did.
So
But
please
no.
stop yelling in the courtroom, Jamie.
I'm not
Legally
going to
Blonde is-
courtrooms and yelling bastard at people. Sorry, guys. I can if you want me to.
Yeah, let's get you held in contempt of court.
Morning, everybody.
Yes, it's most likely his daughter. I thought it sounded like her, But we will probably get an update from Legally Blonde, who is in the courtroom.
Objection.
If anyone cannot compose themselves in the courtroom, then they're going to need to leave the courtroom. Okay? Go ahead, Mr. Hahn.
I'm sorry, Doctor. Please describe what we're looking at in State's Exhibit 180.
All right. In this picture, it's focusing predominantly on the anterior aspect of the chest and the abdomen. You can also see the left hand and the left forearm and left upper arm in this picture. But as I mentioned, there were multiple stab wounds. The vast majority of the stab wounds she sustained were in the chest and abdominal area. There were a few on the hands and arms, but predominantly.
Okay. And what's the protruding from some of the wounds?
In the right lower quadrant, there's actually the yellow is some of the abdominal fat, and then there's also a portion of small intestine, which is protruding through one of the stab wounds.
Can you just, you should be able to touch that screen and circle which ones you're talking about, I think. Wait a minute. Sorry. No, you should be able to, and what are you circling there,
That
Doctor?
is, well, the yellow part is fat, and then this little tubular here, that's the small part of the small intestine.
Okay. And then the other one above or to the left of it?
That is a mental fat, and then there's again some fat and another little piece of intestine protruding through there.
Okay. All right. And then if you go to the top right corner of your screen, that little arrow, you can hit that and then hit clear, and it should take the, thank you. State's Exhibit 181, please. Doctor, what are we looking at in State's Exhibit 181?
Okay, now we're looking at her from the left side. And
I'll pull your super chat up when we're not.
Some of the
talking
pictures that
about
are
distance.
taken in the course of the autopsy, sometimes they're taken as is, received with whatever clothing, or if there's blood or dirt. Clearly in this picture here, as compared to the last one, some of that blood that was present on her chest and abdomen on the skin has been wiped away to better illustrate the size and configuration of some of these stab wounds. So again, there's multiple stab wounds on the chest and abdomen. Again, on this left side, there's...
Because my channel, Lawn and Crim's channel, would be yeeted off YouTube faster than you can spell your first name. What he's just describing is horrendous images. It's images that you'll probably see, and Legally Blonde can attest to this. This is images you would see in one of the movies Jamie loved. No one would enjoy seeing any of this, no matter how much you want to have the jury experience. You don't want to see a gut cut open and see the fats and the intestines spilling out. Trust me. I'm glad they're not showing this, because I would have taken it off screen. Remember, it's still a lady who was brutally, savagely unalived, slashed and cut up, and she didn't pass instantly. So I'm glad we're showing her a little bit of respect by not showing what this animal did to her.
Intestines, which are protruding through that hole there. If you look at her left hand, there's actually some small injuries on the hand, contusion on the hand. There's another superficial wound there on that forearm. So this kind of shows you the relative symmetrical involvement of the right side of the chest and abdomen and the left side of the chest and abdomen.
Okay. And the injuries on the hands and arms, do those signify anything to you?
Well, I consider those to be defensive type wounds, and I believe we will see some photographs that are more close up showing trauma to the hands and in between the fingers, forearms, locations typically seen when an individual is trying to defend themselves during an attack like this.
Okay. And if I may, because I don't have a screen to point at, is that all right if I walk? Okay. Doctor, some of these wounds look darker than other ones and some look lighter. Does that signify anything to you?
Well, what can happen in cases where people have sustained a large number of stab wounds, there's a couple of different things that can happen. Number one, if you sustain a stab wound that hit a vital structure like the brainstem or a large knife that damaged significant damage to the heart, an individual could.
They didn't give an opening statement, so we have no explanation for anything. Maybe third party, we don't know.
Die fairly quickly. In other cases where there's multiple stab wounds, if there's not severe enough trauma to an individual organ, it's possible that the cause of death is more from exsanguination or bleeding to death, more so from an individual organ being so damaged that it would cause an immediate death. So when there's this many stab wounds, sometimes some of the wounds as they're inflicted, and I can't put any kind of order on when these wounds were sustained, but some of the wounds have very
Not attested to so far in court.
little bleeding in the subcutaneous tissue and the fat, and that's because some of these wounds may have happened as the person is quite close to death or actually has died because the heart is no longer beating because of the amount of blood that's been lost in the circulatory system. So some of the wounds show that subcutaneous.
Sorry, I'm trying to refresh and see if that can help with the. That's annoying.
Kind of white, shiny.
Exhibit 183. Thank you. 184.
Wound from sharp. There's also a couple of superficial injuries to the hand, which are more consistent with a sharp force type of situation.
Thank you. Clear those out. Exhibit 183.
Oh, it's on the feed.
Can you please describe Exhibit 183?
Okay, this is a closer up image, and the hand is slightly rotated for this picture. Again, showing that rather large contusion or bruise on the left at the base of that index finger. And what we're looking at here is kind of in the web in between the index finger and the thumb, and that soft tissue is a wound from sharp force injury. Again, one of the things that I mentioned earlier, as far as what I would consider a defensive type wound, there can be present on the hands or the forearms during the course of an assault.
Okay, thank you. 184. And what are we looking at here in States Exhibit 184?
All right. Again, this is showing the left hand and the left forearm. And, you know, the thing that it's variable, when we're looking just on the chest and the abdomen, the shape and the orientation of what these stab wounds look like, they're not all the same size. Some of them are curved. Some of them are more straight. So when this person is moving, that can alter what a wound looks like. Also, when you have something like this, the hand and the forearm, there's a lot less flesh, fat, other subcutaneous tissue, muscle on the hand and the arm as opposed to the chest and the abdomen. So sometimes when a knife penetrates the soft tissue and if it hits a bone, the knife doesn't protrude as deep as it would if it was on a chest or an abdomen. So sometimes these wounds can be much more superficial just because the blade doesn't effectively penetrate as much. So these particular wounds here are, I would say, much more superficial or shallow compared to some of the wounds that we saw in the chest and abdomen. But again, they're certainly significant. These type of wounds you're not going to bleed to death from these, but it shows or indicates that this individual was alive and at the time when this assault occurred.
All right, thank you. 185. And what are we looking at here in State's Exhibit 185?
Okay, we've got, again, we're still on this left arm here, and again, on the forearm, there's this kind of a superficial penetrating wound here. Down here towards the elbow, this is very superficial.
No, we're just going through the autopsy report right now, and it's not easy listening, I have to say. It's she was visually attacked, and I don't know. I feel sick to my stomach listening to this. This is really, normally I'll try to make fun and I'll pull up all the fun comments, but right now I just don't feel like it. I don't feel like this won't be the comedy section of the show. We can do that when we're not talking about being disemboweled. This is crazy. Eddie, I can't talk about motive because there's no need to prove motive. There's no mention of motive. So I can't tell you what the motive should be. You have to ask him. He hasn't taken the stand, and the state doesn't need to prove it. But yes, you hear 55 stabs and you think, oh, it's just puncture wounds. She was sliced up. She was fighting back. That's why they don't look uniform. Thinking about that really doesn't make me want to do the normal stick and make stuff funny. And Zach, I still will pull your super chat up when I just get this taste out of my mouth.
And then you can see here that there's this wound here is much larger and much deeper, and you can actually see there's this kind of white shiny area, and that's actually one of the tendons, in the lower forearm, in the wrist area, and that is a much deeper injury than some of these other things that we've previously viewed.
Okay, thank you. 186. Oh, yeah, sorry. Is it not working?
I don't have the option to. I don't.
Maybe just tap up. Just try and tap up there. It might bring it up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And this is State's Exhibit 186. Can you please explain this photo?
Yeah. So this is again with the hand being rotated, or the arm being rotated, and a little bit more close in from that last image that we saw, showing that there's this much deeper, more of a gaping type of stab wound, and has transected several of the tendons in this wrist area. And that's what you can see here, here, and here.
All right. Thank you. And if you can clear that out. 187. And what do we see here in State's Exhibit 187?
Okay, again, in this image, we're closer in, a couple things. Number one, I think you could appreciate that there's a lot of variation in what these wounds look like. They're not all the same size. Some of them don't have very much hemorrhage. It's almost just yellow fat. This situation has some intestines protruding. Both of these wounds have subcutaneous hemorrhage associated with it. And this wound here is a little unique because you can actually see that there's a sharp end, a little pointy end here, and there's a blunt end, on the other end there. So it also has very little hemorrhage associated with it. So,
Okay. All right.
So very little hemorrhage. So he kept going when the heart stopped pumping.
You want to clear that out? 188. What are we looking at in State's Exhibit 188?
and we're in the same basic sort of orientation, except we're a little bit more over the body. And again, some of these This here, very superficial, but clearly some type of sharp force injury there and right there. Here's another one of these wounds where there is a pretty identifiable blunt end here, and there's a little bit more of a pointed, sharp end there. Again, that would be one of these wounds when compared to this one, which this one here has much more hemorrhage associated with it. But like I said, I can't put any sort of sequence on when these individual wounds were sustained.
Okay, thank you. 189. What are we looking at in State's Exhibit 189?
Again, I didn't take these pictures, but again, this picture is another illustration of comparing this end. There's somewhat of a blunt end, and again, at the time I'm doing the autopsy, I don't have any idea as far as what type of sharp force implement was used. However, you can.
That's fine, Carla. And sorry, I'm a little brisk right now, but I really don't like what I'm hearing. The type of injuries, she was clearly trying to fend him off.
See in some of these that there is a blunt end on one end and a more pointed end opposite to that. And I think
Hold on 1 second, Doctor.
And now we are at that part where Legally Blunt said they came in with their phone on.
Whoever's got some kind of electronic on it needs to be turned off. If another device goes off, it's going to be confiscated by the court. It's important that the jurors be able to hear the testimony. And I'd also ask that people refrain from going inside and outside of the courtroom on a regular basis. Of course, if you need to leave at some point because you can't keep your composure, you can do that, but let's try to do it quietly and not distract from the testimony. You may continue.
Okay, yeah,
I'm sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
This particular wound that's adjacent to this ruler, again, it's, of course, ruler's used for scale just to give some sort of a dimension about the size. But again, there's a blunt end here, a little bit more of a sharp end here. In the same view here, there's another blunt end there with more of a pointy end here. But this wound has very little to no hemorrhage associated with it compared to the one in the corner. Again, it's just sort of a compare and contrast.
And that scale there, Doctor, is that like how the two that you, or the one that has the ruler around it, like how what are the dimensions of that?
That one is about 3.5 centimeters in length.
Okay. And the width, I guess, would be how many centimeters, if you can
The
tell?
width in that one is going to be about 1.25 centimeters.
Okay.
And again, the thing about, just to explain, there's different types of elastic fibers throughout your body beneath the skin. So it depends on how, when a sharp force injury is implemented, it depends on whether or not you're cutting in parallel with these elastic fibers or more perpendicular. So theoretically, you could take the same implement and depending on how hard or not as hard of a stab was implemented, the shape of the wound can vary significantly based on the location on the body because of these elastic fibers, which could cause the wound to potentially gape open. So that's why some of these just look very different.
And can I have 1 second?
This, yeah.
All right, you want to clear on that one, Doctor?
And remember, what we are not seeing, the jury is seeing. And I don't know what his defense is going up there and say, oh, could it have different shapes because it was different people doing the stabbing? But again, it's yeah. I don't know. Yeah, and it's very very hot. No, I wouldn't sit there for this as well. But let's just take a levity break. Jamie, there will be no yelling unless I'm doing it. Where have you been and what does hump day mean to you and where are your crickets? Thank you, Zach, for bringing the mood a little bit up because this has not been the funnest of mornings. I think this is one of those you'll take in bites if you're gonna rewatch this because this is actually horrible to hear that she was fending for her own life, moving around. Because whenever you hear stuff like this, you're hoping that they weren't around for much of it. That like if you're gonna get pew-pewed, just do it in the dome and it's over with. But this fighting someone you know, I don't know if they loved each other. That's probably not the correct term with the kind of relationship they had. But looking him in the eyes while he cut you up, slashed you from head to toe, it's a different kind of crazy that does that. And I don't think crazy, not to stand trial crazy, but a person who is very, very sick. What do you say, Jamie?
What's going on?
Oh, you haven't been listening to him talking about how he sliced her up and you can see her intestines and the
Yeah,
underlying
it's
fat and
it's pretty gory.
tendons. I'm just saying, imagine she was around for most of it. That's what I'm saying. In accidents like, in instances like this, you just hope that he will have slashed the carotid artery and she could have gotten out of there in seconds instead of fighting him for minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, I was
That's
hearing all that. I just didn't hear what you were saying, so I didn't know if you
no,
asked
you
me
never
a
do.
specific question. I had to make a phone call. Um, yeah, it's pretty
Yeah,
gory. And I
yeah,
think that's the worst way. I mean, those types of situation, I mean, that's so
it,
personal and
yeah, personal, but at the same time inhuman.
well, yeah, it's like
Desecrating a body like that.
complete rage, and to be able to do that without a care in the world, like that's crazy to me.
Yeah,
Like I heard you say something about a shot or whatever. It's like that would, like people doing that, like is
yeah.
more
Take one
humane,
to the dome,
more
be out of
humane
here.
than what, yeah, than what they when somebody gets, stabbed 55 times by the person that they're supposed to care about.
Yeah. Again, 28 years of knowing each other. No matter if you loved each other or hated each other, you know each other. It's
Hmm.
such a weird one.
180 or 190, I'm sorry. And what do we have here in States Exhibit 190?
Okay, so this picture is taken from the head looking downward towards the upper chest. And again,
We haven't had his toxicology.
there's multiple more
Like you might have.
hemorrhagic wounds here on the right.
Sorry?
I said he probably was. I mean,
Yeah, but
again,
again, we can't speculate because no one has talked about it. And her toxicology hasn't come back either. So we'll probably have a toxicologist to testify on that part too.
Right breast, a couple of these ones over here on the left breast, not nearly as much subcutaneous hemorrhage. There's also over on this left sort of anterior shoulder area, there's some faint bruising here with some very superficial injuries that I can't necessarily call that a stab wound, but I mean, it could be fingernail scratch, it could be an abrasion from falling and hitting something, but they're just much more minor injuries compared to what we're seeing on the chest.
Thank you. You clear that out. Let's go to 191. And what are we looking at here in States Exhibit 191?
Okay, this is more of a close-up view of the right side of the lower abdomen where we had seen earlier there's fat protruding through the stab wound here. This is small intestine here, small intestine here. And again, to show this wound here, there's more of a blunt end here and a really kind of a sharp, more pointed end on that particular wound, which there's very little hemorrhage associated with that one.
All right, thank you. 192. What are we looking at in this one?
So now this is an image of the right hand and very similar in appearance to the left hand in that fact that there is a contusion or bruising acutely here on the right thumb. There's another bruise you can see up here on the right kind of wrist, forearm area. And like the left hand, some of these injuries on the hand are relatively superficial compared to the types of injuries that we saw on the chest and abdomen. But again, something that really is kind of a classic example of a defensive type of injury.
Thank you. You can clear that one. 193. And what do we have here in 193?
Okay, this is
You're muted. You're muted.
I'm saying yes, we do need to have it shown to the jury because they have to determine if he did these injuries. Normally in Danish trials where we have so severe injuries, they will only show it to. We have screens in front of us, or are given photocopies. Only show it to us and the attorneys. They don't screen it on the big screen out of respect for the family. But yeah, sometimes you have to see these pictures, and those aren't the days you go home and smile. Let's just say that I had one where they crashed into a lorry, and because he had done something, and then a car ran into him, and we had to see how the engine block was on the front seat with him. If the engine block is on the front seat with him, his lower body isn't. Let's just say that. It wasn't a pretty sight. That was one of those days where you think, I'll maybe have a whiskey tonight.
a picture of the right arm, very kind of a superficial type of sharp
He's
force
pointing
injury,
on-
but it's also surrounded by a bruise or a contusion.
He's you can see his laptop or his tablet in front of him. He can draw on the pictures. This is the coroner going through every injury to her body. If you are squeamish, this isn't the time to go back and watch.
Jim's dark purple discoloration there. Again, that doesn't really extend just barely through the skin. So there's no significant damage beneath this wound. But again, with its anatomic location, and what we're seeing here is, again, consistent with another one of these defensive type of wounds.
Okay. And let's go on to the next one then.
94.
Yes. What do we have here in State's Exhibit 194?
Okay, this is, again, a closer up image of the face, which we previously saw on the identification picture earlier. This injury is present on the nose. It is roughly kind of a linear type of injury, but again, it does not extend very deep. It doesn't really penetrate deep into the subcutaneous tissue. So again, this wound would not have caused any major injury or trauma, but again, it's just something that's documented, and I can't say exactly how this occurred in the course of the circumstance. But also, if you look up here, that just at the top of the hairline, there's another one of these very superficial type of injuries. And again, this one is located literally right against the skull, and knife wouldn't have been able to really penetrate deep. So it's very superficial. Where this thing here on the nose, there's a little bit more soft tissue on the nose as compared to this forehead. But because there is a little bit more tissue, I think that's why this one is a little bit more substantial in size.
Okay, thank you. 195. And what do we have here in State's Exhibit 195?
Okay, so now we've the photograph is now taken from the perspective of the top of the head. So this injury here in the corner where the ruler is what we just previously looked at. The injury at the top of the kind of the forehead, right there at the hairline. Again, very superficial, sharp force injury. And also in this picture, you can see that there's some additional injuries more on the top of the head as well.
All right, thank you. Yeah. There we go. 196. Now, what do we have here in 196?
Okay, so what I did is, in order to better illustrate these, some of the hair I did shave on the top of the head from some of those images we just saw to show that, again, there are these superficial stab wounds to the top of the head. And again, because they do not penetrate through the skull, there's a very
I'm not
shallow
sure.
depth to these things. But
I try not to show injured people on this channel. You can go to Court TV or Law and Crime if you want to see it. I know it's superficial, it's not that bloody, but I try not to show it on my channel. It is a person we're talking about.
again, when a knife hits the bone and it's not able to fully penetrate, you can get varying sizes and different orientations in these wounds, and that's what we have here. None of these three, look the same, but they're all caused by a penetrating stab.
Okay, thank you. On 197, what do we have here in State's Exhibit 197?
Okay.
Actually, they kind of look like John O'Keefe's injury to the back of the head, one of them.
So as I mentioned earlier, the majority of these wounds were on the chest and abdomen, some more superficial ones on the hands and forearms. Well, this is the only one that was present on the left upper back. And during the course of the autopsy, again, in the beginning, we're taking this picture, so the body has not been opened up. So there's still blood inside the body, and in manipulating the body, blood can still come out of an injury, especially in the posterior aspect of the body where a person has been laying on their back and you see blood settling. Well, that's what all this purple is. This is livor mortis, where after one dies, the blood starts to settle. So because of that amount of blood in your posterior body, this purple thing here is blood is oozing out or coming out of this stab wound. So in this particular image, you can't actually make out what the wound looks like real well because there's blood coming out of the stab wound. But that's the only one that was present on the back.
Okay. You get clear on that. And doctor, if you want to turn in the exhibit book there to 198. Or,
This
is
objection to the next one, Judge.
Toyota.
Uh, Doctor, looking at State's Exhibit 198, don't describe what it is yet, but would that exhibit, is that going to aid you in determining where penetration wounds are inside of the body and what organs they affected and what areas of the body they affected?
Well, what this picture shows is when we make what we call the Y-shaped incision, make an incision on the chest, down to the midline, and then down the abdomen, then we reflect the skin, the subcutaneous fat tissue, and the muscle back to expose the chest plate so we can further remove that to examine the internal organs. And in this image, it shows where that soft tissue has been exposed, and you can see focal areas of hemorrhage on the chest and abdominal area to indicate where some of these stab wounds entered the internal part of the body.
And would this exhibit aid you in explaining to the jury the injuries that even more so than what we've seen on the external photographs?
Yes.
With that, the court will overrule the objection and the exhibit will be admitted and may be published.
Thank you. All right. I know you just explained it without the picture up there, but can you now explain it so the jury's now viewing it? So can you please explain it again?
Okay. I realize you're not used to seeing these type of images, but all this yellow that we're looking at is adipose tissue or fat, and then you have all this is muscle here. So in these areas where there's this dark red area, that is hemorrhage that's not normally supposed to be there, and you can actually see in this area there's actually a hole in between where the ribs are in that intercostal space where some of these stab wounds have penetrated to involve the internal organs, and you can see some more hemorrhage over here on the right side of the chest. Again, this piece of soft tissue that is now up covering the lower part of her face, if you pull that back down, it would be in that lower chest area, and that dark red hemorrhage there normally would not be there. So again, that is an indication anatomically of where we're looking at injuries.
Okay. So correct me if I'm wrong, but are all of the darker spots, like even lower than where you've marked, are those all hemorrhage spots?
Yes. And then there's actually, you can see some of them in the actual omentum or the fat and the intestine.
Okay, thank you. Do you want to clear that out? 199, please.
This is very graphic, even for just a rendition of it without hearing about it. but it's also a horrific crime. 55 stabulation. It's when we hear about stabulation normally, it's like a couple of one of them just nicks an artery and all the red stuff goes on the outside, and that's the end of you. But this one, again, from the knees to the top of the head. It's, it's. Jamie, why did we choose this trial? Can we blame yesterday?
No.
Yeah.
No.
And what we're looking at here in States Exhibit 199,
This is the heart.
and what's significant?
No, the jury must watch it. Sadly, that's a part of jury duty. You will see stuff you didn't want to see. Because if you're just shown, I could get Bender and just point to you and say, oh, there was a hole here and a hole there. It won't show you what reality looked like. So sadly, the jury will have to endure this.
Again, about this, about the heart here.
Well, there's a few penetrating injuries from the stab wound. Again, I'm holding the forceps here. It was like a big pair of tweezers, showing that there is a hole there. And there's another injury down here on the lower aspect of the right ventricle.
Yes, we are
Yeah, those
looking
are
at
the
a
two
heart.
that you can see right there.
Okay. And would either of those alone be enough to end someone's life, or is this in connection with the other wounds?
Well,
Or if you don't know, you don't know.
well, I mean, I'll say that, the cause of death is due to multiple stab wounds.
Mhm.
Probably the ones that I would at least want to sustain would be ones to the heart because of the nature of the importance of living to
Mhm.
have your heart beating. So, these type of injuries, with blood accumulating in the pericardial sac, which would further inhibit the heart's ability to beat, and then with blood starting to go into the chest cavities through that damage of the pericardial sac. Clearly, these are serious injuries that would not be immediately lethal or immediately incapacitating lesions, but unless sustaining something like this, unless you got surgical intervention within minutes
Mhm.
or something, having some type of rescue personnel knew what they were doing. I mean, this is alone would be enough to kill somebody.
Okay. All right. If you want to hit clear on that. Let's go to States Exhibit 200. And what are we looking at here in States Exhibit 200?
Well, this is from a different inferior vantage point. Again, similarly, before took these forceps and just.
And again, just this is the heart again, correct?
Yeah, this is the heart.
Okay.
So this is that lower wound that I pointed to the last time that wasn't being opened up with the forceps there. It's just showing the size of it because in the prior image, it was somewhat collapsed. So I'm just showing the significance of that injury there.
201. Now, what do we have here in States Exhibit 201?
Okay, well, on this board where we do the dissection, there's a portion of the heart which is visible there. So there's one lung over here, and then here is the other lung. And in this particular situation, each of the lungs has a penetrating stab wound. And in this lung here, and there's a hole, and you can actually, in the middle of that hole, you can see the bottom of that board there, that little white thing.
Mhm.
So that hole goes all the way through the lung.
Okay. Is this the left or the right lung? Or-
That's the left lung. It's
Okay.
got, the left lung has 2 lobes, where the right lung has 3 lobes. That's the way you can differentiate the two.
Okay. All right. And are there injuries on the one in the upper part of the picture?
I'm almost getting sick just watching it. Don't if you have any, if you really want to see, go watch it on Lawn and Crim or Court TV. But if you, I don't get squeamish, but that almost made me puke.
I can't remember which one. Now you
Yes.
said this is the left lung. So the right lung, where are there injuries on the right lung up there?
I believe there's a separate.
Another-
photograph
okay.
that will illustrate
All
that.
Then we'll move on to 202, please. What are we looking at here in States Exhibit 202?
Okay. As I just mentioned, right lung, it's 3 lobes, right upper, right middle, right lower. So this is the right middle lobe, and there is another penetrating injury right there.
Okay. And what do these penetrating injuries do to the lungs, or how do they affect the lungs?
Well, it causes a couple of different issues. Number one, obviously, is bleeding, because the blood that your heart pumps right? From the right ventricle, the blood's going to the lungs to get oxygen. So the lungs are very vascular organs, so there's bleeding. And then the other thing is that can happen is when you have whether a penetrating injury from a bullet or a knife, it can cause the lung to collapse, which will make breathing or respirations even more difficult. So bleeding and potential lung collapse are issues you have to deal with.
Okay. Would you like some water?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay, all right. You going to hit clear on that, please? 203, please. Can I get 1 second here?
Yes.
Sorry. What are we looking at here, Doctor, in State's Exhibit 203?
Okay, this is a picture of the liver. So the liver, typically by weight, is the largest organ in the body. And the right lobe of the liver, which is larger, is located more on the right side of the midline, and then it sort of tapers down. Then your left lobe is a little bit smaller. So this image, this is the larger right lobe over here, and then this left lobe over here, there is a penetrating injury right there.
Okay, and what do those types of injuries do to the liver?
Well, again, the liver is another one of these organs that's very vascular. So all the blood from your lower body, as it's returning through the inferior vena cava to travel back to the heart to get oxygen, there's a lot of blood vessels and damage to the liver. It's certainly going to cause hemorrhage. So again, I mean, it's singularly, a wound like this could cause someone's demise if they didn't get medical treatment very rapidly, but you would probably have a greater survivability if this was the only one you received versus the stab wound to the heart or to the lungs.
Okay.
But again, a very serious injury nonetheless.
Okay. You get clear on that? 204. And what do we have here in State's Exhibit 204?
Again, this is the right lobe of the liver is much larger, and there's a much larger kind of gaping wound here, and then a little smaller one there. There's another one down here. And as you saw from the number of these wounds that were involved on the chest and abdominal area, and with the liver being as large of an organ as it is, it really wasn't a surprise that the liver had a lot more injuries as compared to the heart or the lungs.
Okay. All right. And let's hit clear. Let's go to the next one. And 205, please. And what are we looking at here in State's Exhibit 205?
All right. So to explain how we examine the head and examine the brain, what we have to do is make an incision starting behind the ear and go up over the crown of the scalp, back behind the other ear, and then with a scalpel, loosen up the underneath tissue of the scalp and push the scalp forward and then pull the scalp backward to expose the calvarium, which is the big round part of the skull. So in this picture, if you can imagine, her chin would be down here. So the scalp has been pulled forward, covering her face. So when I showed you those pictures before, there was a wound on the forehead area and then 3 other small stab wounds kind of on the top of the scalp. What you can see.
This is in Ohio, Hamilton, Ohio. Yes, he's going through every 55 of the 55, but only I think we are getting, because there was 200. It was from 177 to 205. That was the slides he was going in. So I don't think we're going to get into. Well, they did the wide shots for the most of it.
See here is there are these hemorrhagic areas in the soft tissue of the scalp, which correspond to where the stab wounds were sustained. And right here, you can see that there is a little defect in the outer table of the skull, or the external part of the skull. There's a little bit of that bone is chipped away, and this.
Linus, sadly, that's how it is. You, as a jury, you get to see all the bad parts. Do the same in Denmark as well, but those are not the good days.
is in proximity to where this damage here is on the scalp. If you pull the scalp back to this, it's going to be overlying that. So as I mentioned earlier, once I did the subsequent removal of this calvarium, exposed the brain, there was no penetrating injury to the brain or any significant brain hemorrhage. Again, it's not an easy thing to do to be able to stab an individual and make the knife go all the way through the skull. But this is just documenting that this was forceful enough that it did cause the outer part.
Probably they'll take a break and let them go to the bathroom. See you, Lena.
Part of the skull to have this defect in it.
All right, thank you. Doctor, what is a blood card?
A blood card is something that is routinely done at the time of autopsy, where we'll take part of the decedent's blood and put it on this card, which can be retained for DNA analysis if it was to correlate to a crime scene, if it had to do with the paternity issue, for males, obviously, that were wondering about paternity. So it has multiple uses, but it's a way that subsequent studies can be done long after the person has been buried.
Okay, and did you create a blood card for Rachelle Brewsaugh?
That's something I don't personally do.
Or was one created for her?
As far as I know, yes.
Okay, all right. And then those blood cards are, do you know if you know, did the Hamilton Police Department take that blood card?
I don't know.
Okay.
How after it was created, I didn't know what happened to it since then.
Okay, but that's also, so that's used to determine someone's DNA?
Yes, it can be, yes.
Okay, all right, thank you. And after performing the autopsy on Ms. Brewsaugh, were you able to determine a manner and a cause of death?
Yes.
And just can you please explain to the jury what the difference between the two is?
Yeah. All right, the cause of death, there's a myriad of things that can be cause of death. And in today's world of forensic pathology, the most common thing we deal with now are drug overdoses, so fentanyl intoxication, multiple drug intoxication, traffic accidents, blunt force injury of the head or blunt force injury of the chest, gunshot wounds, stab wounds, drowning, electrocution. Sometimes we'll do an autopsy on someone and end up being a natural cause. Someone didn't know they had heart disease or they had an undiagnosed cancer, things of that nature. So that's what the cause of death is, whether it's something natural or unnatural, which leads into the discussion about manner of death. So manner of death on the death certificate, there are 5 options. You have to check one of these boxes. So it's either homicide, suicide, accident, natural, or could not be determined. That the could not be determined is when you have an apparently healthy 25-year-old person, and then after the autopsy, there's no obvious grossly identifiable cause of death. You do toxicology testing, that's negative. You look at slides under the microscope, and you can't identify anything. So in those kind of cases, maybe it's a congenital heart arrhythmia that we can't identify at autopsy, or maybe it's some substance that was taken that the toxicology labs aren't able to identify yet. So we don't have many of those undetermined cases. So most of them, we're pretty good at being able to make a definitive ruling on the manner.
All right. And doctor, using your education and training and years of experience, were you able to come to an opinion, or to a reasonable degree of medical certainty, to an opinion of the cause of death and manner of death of Rachelle Brewsaugh?
Yes, I was.
And what was your opinion as to the cause of death?
Multiple stab wounds.
And what was your opinion to the manner of death?
Well, just to clarify,
Okay.
my opinion that the manner of death is a homicide.
Mhm.
Now, I don't actually sign the death certificate because Dr. Mannix, who's the elected coroner of Butler County, she's the one that signs the death certificate.
Okay.
But I mean, I certainly would classify this as a homicide, yes.
All right. Thank you. All right. 1 second.
Cross-examination is going to be very interesting on this one.
Doctor, I do have one other question. When you performed this autopsy, can you tell the jury about the internal bleeding you saw, and was there a lot of blood in her body or not in her body, or can you explain that, please?
Yeah, well, what I attempt to do is when we have anything with some kind of blunt force.
He can't tell you with any certainty, and he can't tell you in which order it happened. That's what he said.
Injury, attempt to measure any quantifiable blood volume that's in the different cavities of the body. And in this particular case, there was, and I say approximately 900 milliliters of blood, or almost a liter. 1,000 milliliters is a liter. So almost a liter of blood in the right chest cavity, 700 milliliters in the left chest cavity, and then another 100 in the pericardial sac, which is the sac that surrounds the heart. So just adding that up, that was 1,700 milliliters or 1.7 liters of blood that I was able to recover from the cavities. Now, obviously, there's still blood in her body, as you could see from that picture. We had her rolled over on her side to show her back. There's still blood that's coming out of some of these injuries. So I can't say how much blood was still in her soft tissues and muscle, but at least I was able to document how much was present in her internal cavities.
Okay. And just how much blood is in a person's body as you sit here today, or roughly?
I mean, it's going to vary based on the size of the person, whether they're well hydrated or not. I mean, you're talking about, possibly 4 to 5 liters of blood.
Okay. All right. I think that's all I have. Thank you,
All
Doc.
right, thank you.
So a third of the red stuff had survived internally in her body.
Cross-examination?
You can't tell who was carrying the knife. Thank you.
Morning, doctor.
Good morning.
I wanted to talk to you first about during your testimony, you referred to stab wounds throughout. And if I could have a state pull up Exhibit 187 so I could talk to the doctor about that.
Are you going to
Doctor,
talk
are you able to see State's Exhibit
Yes, I
187?
can see it.
And I want to talk to you a minute about when you say stab wounds. Now, what's the difference between a stab wound and a cut, a nick, a scrape? Why do we use the word stab wound during your testimony?
But typically, you're right, there are different terminology. A stab wound is typically a wound that's deeper than it is on the surface, where an incised wound, if someone has had their throat cut, where the wound is longer on the surface than it is deep. And then the term you used, a cut, I mean, a cut could be a paper cut, very superficial on your finger, or a cut could be more of an incised wound, something that's very superficial on the surface.
Okay. Well, the reason I ask if, for instance, if I'm working in my garage with a cutting knife, cutting up cardboard, and I slice my finger, I don't walk in and go, I just stabbed my finger. Stab seems to connote that you know exactly what caused these injuries and how they were. Is that what you're trying to tell us today, that you know exactly how all this occurred and what caused these injuries?
Well, the majority of the injuries are stab wounds because they're deeper penetrating injury than a more superficial incised wound, or even if you were in your garage and you cut your finger, that would be more of an incision. If you think of the term like surgical incision.
Okay.
So there are some of these things on her body, which I alluded to earlier, that they were so superficial, whether it was something that occurred and a couple contusions that could be associated with a fall or just some sort of glancing injury. But I mean, I've done enough autopsies on people that have sustained multiple stab wounds, and I'm familiar with what the variable appearances that some of these stab wounds may have, even if the same implement was used.
Some of these you described as superficial. Were you including those as one of the 55 stab wounds you noted in your report?
Some of them, no.
Give us an idea on 187. And I'm talking about, obviously we can tell some of the bigger cuts here, but some of these smaller portions of her body, which you consider a stab wound, some of the smaller ones.
You want me to start pointing out stab wounds?
Yes.
It might be easier for me to point out the ones that aren't stab wounds. So all these things that I put in these little dots are
Jeez.
clearly stab wounds. Something that would be more of a superficial scratch, scrape, incised wound would be something like that, something like that.
Yeah, do that.
Yeah, this is actually really, really smart because instead of having polka dots all over the picture, now you just have, this is only a slide, this is only a slide.
Yeah.
The rest of them are pretty cray-cray.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, he's trying to infer that it's not all that bad is what I'm getting. It's a stupid question because now the doctor who has testified in hundreds of cases will helped the state by pointing out that most of those injuries were stab wounds, and there was a lot he didn't count.
Mhm.
Something right there. I mean, so in this picture, I mean, the majority of these things are stab wounds. There's a few that, like I said, an incised wound typically is something that's longer on the surface than it is deep, that I wouldn't classify as a penetrating stab wound. So there's a few in this particular image that I did not count as a stab wound.
Okay. And I guess I also want to talk to you, when we hear, it's common when we hear the word stab, we think of things going directly into the body. Are you describing these stabs as you're saying that something went straight into the body or just may have nicked or scraped the body?
Well, I'm not saying that they necessarily went in straight. Again, a couple different factors why these things can look so different. Number one, if the individual is moving, when you're trying to hit a moving target, they're not always going to be the same. Depending on whether you hit bone beneath the soft tissue, that may impede how deep the knife can penetrate the body. Clearly, some of these wounds were able to travel between the ribs and penetrate deep enough to hit the lung, hit the liver, hit the heart, hit the intestine, where some of the other ones were much more superficial. So it basically only penetrated the skin and got into the fat. So there's a varying assortment of wounds on the body.
You kind of got into the next area I want to talk to you about movement. These injuries that we see here, some of these cuts, these wounds could have been in the process while this person was moving, correct?
It's certainly possible. I believe, in my personal opinion, because there's not one immediately lethal injury, it's certainly possible that there was an interval where this person is moving. And because of so many of the different, orientations, many times if an individual is stabbed and they're not moving, there's a very more of an organized orientation of wounds. And in this particular case, they're really not that organized in that respect. So it's consistent with some movement during the event.
Okay. And you would agree with me that, you weren't at the scene, you don't have a video to see exactly what happened, but movement could not only be someone trying to get away from someone stabbing them, correct? They could be moving away from the person who's trying to stab them.
Absolutely, yes.
It also could be that the person who has a stab wound is approaching the person who may have a knife, and there may be some sort of physical altercation going on between the two of them.
Yeah, I wasn't there, but certainly that's a possibility.
Right. At the end of the day, you don't know what physical altercation, if any, preceded or occurred during any of these cuts and these wounds.
That's correct.
You talked about liters of blood, and obviously, bigger person has more blood. What's like I think you said Rachelle was 230 pounds. Do you have, based on your experience, your background, your training, approximately how much blood she would have as a 230-pound female?
Well, it's hard for me to, kind of in general, I think I previously stated, 4 to 5 liters, for a full-grown adult. But obviously, someone who's 7 feet tall versus someone who's 5 feet tall, and then depending on their body habits, some could have more, some could have less. Like I stated earlier, I measured what I could that was in the body cavities. But one of the things that you look at when someone has had a significant blood loss, we look at the kidneys, because there's a phenomenon called shock kidney. Because what your body does is, in an attempt to, when you're actively hemorrhaging, you start shunting blood from your lower extremities and your lower half of your body to try to keep blood going to your brain, try to keep blood going to your lungs so you can continue to try to oxygenate. And in some of those cases, people's kidneys can be really, really pale when they've literally exsanguinated to death. In this particular situation, her kidneys were not really pale like you would see in a shock kidney. So she did lose a lot of blood, but I think it's undeniable that because of where her injuries were, it affected the ability for her heart to adequately pump. Blood was starting to accumulate in the pericardial.
No, he shouldn't. His job is to fight for his client, even though he has a shitty case. That's he has to try and do what he's legally and ethically supposed to do. He probably will also have a whiskey when he comes home tonight, because defense lawyers sadly have the job of giving the people their constitutional rights, even though people who are as I don't know, as bad as this one, or everyone has a right to a defense, no matter how much we like it or not. But we find it stupid. But again, this man is just doing his job, and then people can say, well, he didn't take another job. Well, someone has to do it. It's the Sixth Amendment right, and the 14th, I believe. So even though we all think he's an idiot, it's his job.
Sac surrounding her heart, and she's going to potentially have collapsed lungs because of the damage to the lungs. So although she does have a lot of internal hemorrhage, I didn't sort of rubber.
No, but he has to do it with. This is the only fact witness where he might be able to say something, but again, it doesn't help finding out that it's even worse than we thought. That there was actually 200 stab wounds and not just 55.
Understand this and say that, call it an exsanguination because of the loss of the functional ability of her to adequately breathe and then perfuse her tissues because of the damage to her heart.
Does a 230-pound woman have the same amount of blood as a 130-pound woman? Let me ask it that way.
No.
I would say that the larger woman would most likely have more blood than the smaller one.
And I myself, 40 pounds heavier than the person in this, would you guess that I may have more blood than the
You're a man, yes, because you have bigger muscles and you need more oxygen transported around your body. It doesn't make sense what you're asking. It's not about if she had 1 liter or 2 liters of blood anywhere. Again, you're doing your job, but do it in a good way instead of this crap, because this has nothing to do other than trying to confuse the jury.
Rachelle?
Probably, yeah.
Okay. If the state could pull up Exhibit 33, please. It's already been 33.
Yeah, there.
Doctor, I'm showing you where Rachelle was found in the home. This is the crime scene. Based on the amount of blood that would have been in her body and all the injuries that you've shown to us, including something on the wrist where it was so deep that it went down into her tendons, does it surprise you that we don't see more blood in this picture?
Well, honestly, I would expect to possibly see more blood than what I'm seeing here. I mean, obviously there's blood on that cardboard box, there's blood on the floor, blood on the rug. There's some degree of blood on her clothing. Of course, it's a dark shirt and she's wearing kind of darker pants. But I mean, sometimes in these cases, there are sometimes large.
Oh, this is she was moved. That's the defense.
No.
Because there's not enough blood at the crime scene.
Like coagulated pool of blood, and I don't see that in this particular case.
Right, and particularly with around her wrist, we were shown a picture where you said the white part of that was basically so deep. We're looking at tendon. We see both of her wrists in this picture. Would you expect, based off the injury you see later on, that there would be more blood near her wrist here?
Well, the thing that I can't answer is, and I alluded to it earlier, I can't tell you the sequence of the injuries that she sustained. Clearly, I think that one was an antemortem wound, meaning that she was still alive because of the relative amount of soft tissue hemorrhage that was present in the wrist. But I don't know if that's one of the wounds that happened later in the assault, once her blood pressure had been significantly diminished. I mean, there is more blood on the adjacent on the floor by the left as opposed to the right, but again, not a huge pool.
Okay. You can go ahead and clear the picture out, please. When I think you talked about this a little.
Oh, yeah, maybe we can talk. That's where the rubbing alcohol comes in, because they talked about that yesterday, and
Oh, yeah.
and they want to get ahead of that. So he might have cleaned up the site because it smelled heavy of rubbing alcohol. Maybe that's why, because we didn't understand why they were talking about the rubbing alcohol yesterday. That could be the question. No, we don't know if they didn't talk about using luminol at the scene, so we haven't heard if it looked like it had been cleaned.
But all the pictures that you testified about today, her body.
Adelaide last because, as he said, the sanguination or the bleeding, as it's in common tongue. If you go watch the picture of the heart, there's one of the main pipes into the heart has a hole in it. If that part have a hole in it before you slice your wrist, that'll mean all the blood going to and from or passing through that spot will leak into your chest cavity instead of going back into your system. So when you have these major injuries or you're already dead, the flow of blood will diminish. That's why some people are saying, "Oh, there wasn't a lot of blood on them." Maybe because they were choked first, so the blood. The body is a funny place because the reason we have blood running through it is just it's to move oxygen into the body and take CO2 out of your body. That's the only purpose, and then clogging up wounds and stuff like that. But if you break one of the major pipelines in the body, everything you cut after that will have less and less and less blood because the major arteries will just shoot it out. That's why you see it in movies and stuff like that. It sprays everywhere because there's so much pressure on it. And you heard she had almost 2 liters of blood in her chest cavity area. So that's why a cut wrist, which would you normally, because we've seen the movies that that's how you unalive yourself in a bathtub, which isn't the way because, no, I shouldn't say that on YouTube. But if you then cut somewhere else and you don't have the pressure in the system because it's leaking out in your chest cavity, it won't bleed as much in the extremities as it does because your body will do, if you get injured, the 2 most important things it'll instantly try to isolate is your brain and your heart. It doesn't care about your fingers. That's why if you get frostbite and stuff like that, it's because your body doesn't care about your extremities. It only cares about your heart because that's the one that's the motor and the brain. So that's the parts that it'll send blood to first when you have a hole in the system.
Appear to be, when I say clean, it doesn't, let me start, I can rephrase this. When her body was presented to you, was the skin that was untouched by any wounds, was it just covered in blood and smeared with dry blood?
Not a tremendous amount, but it's I think probably the first picture that showed her chest and abdomen. That was one of the unclean pictures because there was, dry blood there. And then the subsequent picture that showed, I believe, the left half of her body, you could tell the difference because that one had been cleaned, but it wasn't like her body was just completely covered in blood.
Okay. Did you yourself do any cleaning of the body in order to examine the wounds?
I don't do the cleaning of the body.
Were you made aware of how much blood was on her body that needed to be washed away in order for you to do your autopsy?
Well, I saw her before that occurred, but I didn't actually clean her body myself, but I saw the condition that she was in on those initial photographs that were taken.
Next, I want to talk to you. You used a word during your direct examination. You were referred to defensive wounds. When you do your autopsy, is there anyone from law enforcement that's present when you're doing that autopsy?
Sometimes there are.
Do you recall if someone from this examination of Rachelle, there was someone present?
Honestly, I can't remember on that. I mean, it's been almost 2 years ago. I can't remember.
I think he's going with she was moved defense or something like that. That's what he's alluding to because there's not enough blood on the crime scene. But again, if 2/3 of her blood was inside of her chest cavity, her clothes would have soaked up some, and some will still be in the system. So yeah, I don't know if it's a good thing to go down.
Who was there? Who wasn't there?
Is that something you would note in your report if someone was present from law enforcement?
Not necessarily, because there have been other occasions where sometimes a police officer will walk in halfway through a case or stay for 10 minutes and leave. So it's one of those things that I don't include that person in my report. I mean, I believe there is a log there at the Butler County morgue for people to sign in when they come there. But so I prefer that because I didn't obviously include anybody's attendance in my report.
Right. And I know a lot's happened for you in the last 2 years. I know you're through it. Did you get any information on this case? Does anybody provide you, hey, this woman's coming in, may have been stabbed? Did you have any information about the background of this case or the investigation?
Well, basically, when I was called to come to perform this autopsy, I was told that we have an individual who's sustained multiple stab wounds, and it was being investigated as a homicide. So that was basically what I was told.
Okay. But you don't get any information about who may have done it or how she's found or anything like that, are you?
Well, they typically they're not telling me who did it unless it was witnessed by other people or someone has admitted to doing it. Obviously the police have to do their investigation, and they've, got those suspects or whatever. But at the time I did the autopsy, I did not know that there had been any definitive determination as to who the perpetrator was.
You described something. We're going to keep talking about this defensive word that you use with regards to the hands, but you could also get under someone's fingernails and maybe find their DNA or their cells to suggest someone was clawing at someone who may be trying to stab them. Could you not do that?
Potentially, yes.
And that would maybe indicate something was defensive. Is that fair?
Yes.
All right. If the state could please pull up 182. You said that this is her left hand. I know we have pictures of both her hands, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think when you described anything as defensive, you're referring to her hands. Is that fair?
Well, hands and the arms, yes.
Okay. Well, let's talk about the hands. You described this as being caused by blunt force. Blunt force contusion to the hand could be caused by striking something with your hand. Is that fair?
Yes.
If I were to punch this podium right now, I could cause a contusion to my own hand.
Yes.
And we wouldn't know whether or not if that was truly defensive or if that was offensive. Is that fair?
Yes.
Hitting your hand on a piece of furniture could also cause a contusion. Is that fair?
Yes.
If you're struggling with someone and you fall to the ground or your hand hits something hard, that could cause a contusion on your hand as well, correct?
Yes.
Also, with some of these wounds, these stabs, these cuts, these scrapes, if a person were to have a small pocket knife in their hand and maybe using it themselves, is it possible that they could cut themselves?
What? She did it to herself? Jamie,
What?
can I get the rest of the day off because of a raging migraine I just got?
Let's do it.
Yeah, everyone, Marissa will take over now.
Yeah. Come on, Marissa.
Yeah. I don't often stabulate myself, but when I do it 200 times just to blame my husband.
Yeah, that's pretty much what he's doing, grasping at straws. He's just
Remember
trying to.
10 minutes ago when I said, well, he has to do his job and he has to
Yeah.
protect his witness. No, you don't have to be an idiot.
Well, you
It's
just got to throw all that crap out there and make people think, oh, maybe, there's one person in the world that's like, it's possible.
but yeah. This is just. He's probably gonna get a negative answer to this one. That's yeah, and make sure you hit the top of your head and your knees and from the sublime to the ridiculous. Well, I thought he was doing again. He was making he was making sweetbread out of mud pie, but then it turned into crappiola.
Well, the location of where some of these wounds are, their orientation, I would find that kind of hard to believe that these were, what you're saying, self-inflicted wounds?
I didn't say self-inflicted. Let me ask it this way. Hypothetically, you and I are in an argument, and I have a small pocket knife in my hand, and I may try to move it towards you, and in the process, I miss you. I could cut my hand on my own in that scenario, can I not?
I guess that's a possibility.
All right. Because you described a lot of these wounds, these cuts, these scrapes as all different shapes and sizes, and there's movement going on. So at the end of the day, you can't sit here and tell us that we know exactly how these wounds were made. You can't do that, right?
That's correct.
You can't tell us exactly what instrument or object caused these, correct?
That's correct.
And you cannot tell us what was going on with before, during, and after these wounds are being applied to this person, correct?
Yes.
And you can't tell us if there's two people involved, whether one person or the other inflicted them.
That's
Oh,
correct.
I see where he's going with this. He's trying to say she was going after him too. So
Yeah,
What's
she had a
happened?
pocket knife in her bag that she didn't have open at the time. He put it in there afterwards.
yeah,
So some of them was just she never nicked him. Only the scratches to his chest and her forearms, but she didn't because he took the stabby stab away. Then you should use a self-defense argument, you big pillock.
Yeah.
Now I am on team sit down.
I agree, Scott.
Were you ever provided a photograph of knives collected at the scene for comparison with these wounds?
I have seen a picture of a knife that I wasn't told that it was definitively the knife, but something that was recovered.
So you actually had the knife, or you just had a?
It was they were Jamie. I got it. They were reenacting West Side Story because they are in a community theater group, and they were doing that that fight scene between the Jets and the Pillocks or whatever it is. I never watched the movie, but I know there's a stabulation fight in it. He's a method actor, and like Daniel Day-Lewis and stuff like that. So he lived too much into the role, and when he came out, someone yelled "cut." He came out and oh my God, that happened. It was a West Side Story stabulation.
Mm-hmm.
That's yeah, that's what it was, Jamie. The Sharks versus the Jets. That's yes, they started out with the I wanna come to America. And then it went dark fast. Oh, it's nice to get back and get some humor into this. Because it's been a hard one. We haven't heard anything about El Doggo getting involved in it.
Photo.
I've just seen a picture.
You see a picture of the knife, and they did.
I don't think there's a dog in West Side Story, so it was probably outside or something, so they really could get into the role.
You go back and look at your photos and look at your report to compare and contrast.
Well, when I saw the image,
hey,
of
Legally
this
Blonde,
potential knife,
we are just about to end his testimony. We are just 2 minutes behind, so I'll just mute you. I'll pull you off so you can do what you were doing, so you don't have to hide it from the camera.
Thanks.
what was potentially consistent is the fact it wasn't a very big knife. I mean, if you take a 6-inch, 8-inch butcher knife, typically like you'd see in the wood block in the kitchen, you don't see these kind of small wounds. You see these very deep wounds that create these gaping type of injuries in the liver and the lung and the heart. Based on the number of stab wounds and the relative few number of them that actually penetrated an organ, it's consistent that it's a smaller knife than a very huge, long-bladed knife. But again, you could take the same knife and get varying kinds of injuries depending on whether you full contact or a glancing blow or came in at a different angle. So I can't look at a picture of a smaller knife and say, well, that clearly caused this, or that it clearly didn't cause it. It's just it's more consistent that it was a smaller knife than a very big, long blade knife.
You did testify that some of the injuries in this case went so deep as to puncture heart, lungs, and liver, correct?
Yes.
Are you able to get on the outside of the skin down to the liver with the?
Well, the liver is probably the easiest of those three organs that you mentioned, because anatomically, the liver is kind of just beneath the right side of that costal margin, the rib cage, and it can extend downward below that. So you might not even have to go through.
Come on.
Uh-oh.
What? Sorry? What happened?
I think that's all I have.
You're way behind.
Okay, so
Jeez.
there's three different penetrating injuries to the heart.
I think that's all I have. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anything else?
Yes. Doctor, could a knife that folds and unfolds without a locking mechanism cause these injuries?
Yes.
What?
No.
Okay. All right, thank you, doctor. You may step down.
Let's see if any action happens.
This time I think we'll take our mid-morning break. It's about 10:40, so we'll come back at 10:55. Please remember my recess instructions.
They are not fighting. Well, We're caught up now.
Okay.
Hello, Legally Blonde, and
Hi.
welcome to the show. And
Thank you.
Hey,
was it as
So-
horrible to watch as we think it was?
Yeah, it really was. It was hard. I was sitting directly behind the family, and did you guys hear the daughter?
Yeah.
Yell. So the whole time you could tell she was holding back, and the family around her, of course they're all upset. And the jurors, there are certain jurors who like they do like a triangle. They'll look at the questioning of the attorney, they'll look at the witness, and then they'll look back at her. And the defense attorney looks at her constantly when he's up there. He constantly is staring at the daughter nonstop. It's like he's gauging his questions from her facial expressions. It's really interesting. The jurors
Oh,
are.
and just we were talking about, is he turning around, contacting them again today like he's been the other days?
The defense
The
attorney?
defendant? No, the defendant.
Oh, the defense. No. He is infuriating. Even to sit in a room with him is infuriating. So where he's sitting, there's the prosecution's table, the defense's table, and then there's the screen. So he's right here, and there's a computer on the defense table, and he has his head turned like this, and his mouth, he's like mouth breathing, right? And with his eyes closed. But his head is so far this way, it's like behind the screen. So he can't see the computer that's on their desk, and he can't see anything on the screen. He won't even look at it. He's clearly a coward. He's ridiculous. Did you guys hear when he came in this morning?
We didn't have the audio on. So
he came in, he's so loud. He came in, he was complaining because they haven't let him shower in 4 days. He was like, just let me take a shower. It's been 4 days. He's wild. And I don't know if the people who came in late that caused a disruption are family or friends of the family, but they came in, I don't even know if they're probably may even be related to him, but they smelled like a dispensary. Like the whole room smells like that now.
And I am Danish, so I don't know the puff things.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Oh,
yes.
So, that's always good in court.
So I'm trying to think. So during the autopsy pictures, it was like some of the jurors, you could tell they were really struggling. It's like they would look, because they have to, and then they would look away. And then some of the other jurors, it's like they couldn't look away. They were, and some are more invested, it looks like, than others. One of them, I kind of dubbed her Stevie Nicks. She's probably the most invested. She takes a lot of notes. She was crying. Quietly, but crying. Like her nose was red. She's really upset. There's another juror who she's a skeptic for everyone, but she seems to be more sympathetic towards defense, ironically enough. But a lot of the jurors make the same face that we make when the defense attorney talks. They're like,
yeah, that we just thought, I think it's a community play gone wrong now. That they were doing the Sharks and the Jets from West Side Story, and she stabulated herself 200 times because that happens.
right. Yeah. Clearly, I would think if it was someone else, he'd be able to maybe look at it. But just like everything about him says shame. Like you can just see the shame, like in his mannerisms, the way he sits, the way he holds his head, his shoulders, all that jazz. Oh, and Detective Trial Daddy now knows that this community exists, and I told him about all of these thirsty women that are after him. So he says he'll check it out, but they all say that. But I did get a picture. I'll share it.
Ladies, you heard it. You are now recognized by Mr. Trial Daddy. There was a few people, I don't know if you saw it in chat, who said give him their socials so he can slide into their DMs.
There's
Lord.
socials. I don't think they need. Oh, like social media. I was thinking social security
Social
number.
security card.
I'm pretty sure that Julie Fraser will
I was
give
like,
him
why does he want to
whatever.
run their credit score?
Julie,
I mean, it's not a bad idea.
Julie.
Yes, that's true.
Oh, you have to get back in court.
Yes, I do. I know. All right.
Thank you so
I'll
much.
talk to you later, guys.
Get back to us after. Well, when the next break comes.
I will do. Thank you.
Oh, can we get the makeup of the jury?
Oh, I have it. It's 8 women and 6 men. Yes, eight women, 6 men. There's mostly white, 1 Polynesian man, 1 Spanish woman, and 1 black woman. Gotta go. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, we are back on the record in State versus Madden. The jurors are not present. Mr. Burris, Mr. Hahn, and Detective Horton are present on behalf of the state. Mr. Madden appears in person with counsel, Mr. Wilder. Before the jurors come in, is there anything on behalf of the state of Ohio?
No, Your Honor.
Anything on behalf of the defendant?
Not at this time, no.
Very well, let's bring in the jury.
Well, apparently one of the women looks very skeptical. We found out yesterday he's married. Yes, coroner is done. I'm a full-service channel. I walked into a door last night, so I can't say it couldn't have happened. I actually, after the stream yesterday, I went to bed at like 5 in the morning. I couldn't sleep after. And then I heard something. I have an old bed, the one I used to have in this room, put outside so I can put it once every month. They send a garbage truck to take all of that big stuff away.
Mhm.
I was just falling asleep, and I heard something outside, such a weird noise, and I thought, what the hell? Because we have had some people stealing stuff here the last couple of months. So I was going out to check what it was, and I forgot to close the door into my bedroom, so I walked straight into the door because I was so tired and didn't put my hands out in front of me. So that was a successful morning.
Ah, I do that all the time, and I do it without being sleepy. So
Yeah. It was the daughter. But it was just, luckily it just fell over, that it was the mattress that fell over because a cat had jumped on it. That cat looked really, really scared.
Please be seated. Before we get started again, are there any violations of the court's recess instructions that anyone needs to report? Okay, the state's next witness.
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you, State Republic Detective Doug Trenum.
Another detective. I'm going to take a bio break here.
You may proceed, Mr. Burris.
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you. Good morning, sir. Would you please state your name for the record and spell your first and last name?
Yes, my name is Doug Trenum. That's D-O-U-G, last name T-R-E-N-U-M for Mary.
And how are you currently employed?
I am a detective with the City of Hamilton Police Department.
And how long have you been, let's start with this, how long have you been a police officer with the City of Hamilton Police Department?
A little over 10 and a half years.
Kind of take us through your journey, if you would, being a Hamilton police officer. Tell us where you first started off in the different ranks that you've had.
Yeah, so I was hired January 2nd, 2014 as a patrol officer with the City of Hamilton Police Department.
And to be a patrol officer, what did you do?
I responded to calls for service, 911 dispatches for assistance, made offense reports, conducted arrests, and assisted with other investigations if Vice and Detective Bureau needed assistance from uniformed officers.
And then where'd you go next?
I was promoted February 17th of 2020 to the rank of detective, where I was assigned to the Investigations Bureau.
Okay. And then I'll have you describe your detective duties here in a second. So then what rank did you get next?
After detective, I was then promoted in August of 2023, last year, to the rank of sergeant.
Okay. And what did you do being the rank of sergeant at the City of Hamilton Police Department?
I oversaw patrol officers assigned to the road and assisted with mid-level management duties of patrol officers.
Okay. And now you're back to being a detective.
And now I'm back to being a detective.
Tell us how and why that happened.
I decided to take a voluntary demotion to return back to the Investigations Bureau because I really enjoy this aspect of law enforcement.
Okay. And what are your duties being a detective with the City of Hamilton Police Department?
So I'm assigned to investigations. At City of Hamilton Police Department, we are classified as general detectives. So I handle a wide range of cases involving various offenses of various penalty levels. Officers respond to calls for service. They make offense reports or crime reports that then are assigned to me by a supervisor, where I then have to follow up with those reports, such as interviews, collection of evidence, establishing suspects, and then assigning arrest warrants, search warrants for those cases.
Okay. And if you wouldn't mind educating ladies and gentlemen of the jury here, some of the training and education that you get involving your rank as a detective.
So when you're first hired, you go through a basic investigations course, a new detective criminal investigations course, if you would, to better understand what it is to be a detective versus a patrolman. I then went to an interview and interrogation course to be able to understand more thoroughly how to conduct interviews and interrogations of suspects that detectives usually perform, not necessarily uniformed officers. And then lastly, one of the requirements, initial requirements, is I attended a 2-week homicide investigation course through the University of Louisville at their Southern Police Institute.
Okay. And I assume that you probably continue to go through educational type courses during the time that you've been a detective?
Correct. I have elected to do so.
Okay. And tell us about some of the courses that you have gone through, or some of the programs that you have done.
So I have a couple different certifications in crime scene photography to better understand how to photograph crime scenes and to properly document them. I also hold an evidence technician certification. That was a 2-week course to be able to understand the proper procedures to collect evidence, identify it, further photograph it, and then prepare that evidence to be submitted to a state crime lab. I've also received certifications in shooting incident reconstruction to understand trajectory of projectiles and try to determine their flight paths. I've also received certification in bloodstain pattern analysis to be able to recognize patterns of bloodstains at crime scenes and then document them for areas of convergence, areas of origin, and then to be able to send that off.
Just to all you ladies.
She asked for a picture. That's funny.
To an actual bloodstain pattern analyst at a state crime lab, should that be needed. I am also certified what's known as forensic aspects of death investigations, which cover the entomology aspects of investigations, as well as the excavation of buried bodies or remains. I'm also recognized by the International Association for Identification as a certified crime scene investigator. And lastly, I have completed, through the Ohio Peace Officers Training Academy, my certified master evidence technician.
Okay. And so I'm going to direct your attention back to October 11th of 2022. Were you on duty that particular day?
Yes, sir, I was.
And that would have been during your first go around as a detective at the City of Hamilton Police Department?
Yeah, I had been promoted to a detective for about 2.5 years when this incident occurred.
Okay. And I assume I'm going to ask, were you asked to assist other officers and other detectives? Were you asked to assist them in the investigation of the death that occurred at 1270 Parish Avenue involving Rachelle Brewsaugh?
Yes, sir, I was.
Okay. So let's start with, did you assist Detective Horton, who is seated over there, in collecting some clothing items from the defendant over there and documenting some injuries?
Yes, I did.
And I assume, let me ask you this way, did you come in contact with Toby Madden on that particular day?
Yes, I did.
Did you see Toby Madden in court today?
Yes, he is seated at a defendant's table next to his counsel.
Okay. And I believe that State's Exhibits 79 through 88 are what I'm going to ask some questions about. I believe all of those have been admitted, so I'm going to ask the court for permission to publish.
Permission is granted.
And if you would, Detective, what is it that we're looking at in State's Exhibits 79?
This is the defendant, Toby Madden. He is in our interview room, and it was a photograph that was taken of him as after he was transported to our headquarters by officers.
Okay. State's Exhibit 80. What are we looking at here in State's Exhibit 80?
So this is the defendant's, Toby Madden's, left forearm between the wrist and elbow on the top side. And there is a slight abrasion, if you would, or red mark on the top side of his forearm.
So whatever is easier for you, if you want to either circle it on the screen, I believe if you can push on the screen, you can circle it, or if I have a pointer for you to use if you'd like to step down.
There is a red abrasion, a linear abrasion, if you would, within that area that I observed.
Okay. Is it safe to say that that abrasion was more prevalent looking at it as opposed to taking a photograph of it?
Yes.
You see it better in person, I guess I should say it that way.
It's
You
a
just see it
photo.
better in person than we're seeing it on the photo.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can I believe if you touch the top right corner of the screen, I think that will allow you to clear it. All right, State's Exhibit 81.
I'm going to unpick this so you can.
Okay, so this is, as you can see, this is the top side of the defendant, Toby Madden's left forearm between the wrist and elbow. That is my hand holding the ruler or the scale, if you would, next to a couple of linear abrasions on the top side of the forearm as I am circling them, as indicated on the screen. There's a couple of them.
Okay, thank you, sir. State's Exhibit 82.
Again, this is another mark that was on the defendant's arm. This is his right arm on his forearm between the wrist and elbow.
And what did you see injury-wise on the right arm?
You can see, I'm going to circle it again on the screen for the jurors. You can see this red abrasion or this red mark on the top side of his forearm, right forearm.
Okay. Thank you, sir. State's Exhibit 83.
Again, this is the same photograph as State's Exhibit 82, but with a scale in place.
Okay. State's Exhibit 84. I think that's, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yeah, this is the defendant, Toby Madden's right forearm, slightly above the elbow, right within the crease on the top side. Again, I am holding a scale in place, and you can see that there is a linear abrasion right there.
And 85.
This is the defendant, Toby Madden. His shirt has been removed. It was collected as evidence. And this is a photograph of his torso, focusing on the center of his chest.
And State's Exhibit 86.
This is just a closer view of the defendant's chest. As you can see that there are linear abrasions in a horizontal manner in the center of his chest.
State's Exhibit 87.
And this is a close-up photograph of the defendant's chest, where I'm holding a scale in place while a photograph is being taken, showing the abrasions a little bit more closely.
Okay. And State's Exhibit 88.
This is the lower left backside of the defendant, Toby Madden, where you can see that there are a series of linear abrasions that are horizontally positioned with a scale in place that I'm holding.
Okay. Thank you, Detective. During your interaction with October the 11th, did you attempt to get any fingernail clippings or fingernail scrapings from him?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And I would assume that you had to get a search warrant in order to try and obtain those?
Yes, I did. I obtained a search warrant was obtained, and then I executed it to obtain the fingernail clippings and scrapings from the defendant.
And if you would go ahead and educate, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, what is a search warrant?
A search warrant is where we have to outline to a judge of the common police court why we have probable cause in order to take some item or property, whether it be an actual physical property from a residence or a vehicle, or to take DNA in some various form, could be blood, could be mouth swabs, or it could be in the form of fingernail clippings and scrapings from a person. Once we then outline our probable cause and an affidavit to a judge, it is up to them to make the determination if we have reached that level of probable cause to execute the search warrant and obtain that property.
Okay. And when you said that you executed the search warrant, what does that mean?
I collected the defendant's fingernails, clippings, and scrapings from both his hands.
Okay. And just tell us how it is that you go about collecting fingernail clippings and fingernail scrapings.
So you collect them separately from hands, and you use, for scrapings, you use a wooden dowel rod, and you scrape underneath the fingernail of each finger and place the dowel rod and any scrapings into an envelope. You do this over top of an envelope, so that way if there are any scrapings or things that fall from underneath the fingernail, you can collect them. You do that same process for the right hand, and then you can go back and you use fingernail clippers and take the fingernail clippings from each finger of the left hand, put that in an envelope with the clippings and the clippers, and then you do the same process for the right.
Okay. Is that the process you undertook in this particular case?
Yes, sir, it is.
And why is it that you were interested, or why is it that you wanted to get fingernail scrapings and clippings from the defendant?
I wasn't necessarily interested in his DNA being located. I would suspect that it's from his person. I was attempting to locate any of the deceased victim's DNA within his fingernail clippings and scrapings.
Oh, Marissa, I have a story from you from court. We had a lady who appeared in court with two defendants. She was just sitting in the back. She was looking good in that kind of mobster girlfriend thing. And then, like 10 minutes into court, she picked out her nail file and started filing her nails. Kind of weird. And then she did this. Scraped her nails and licked it clean. Then she didn't look that good anymore.
What?
Okay. I assume you
Yes, she licked her nail scum off her nail
You
file.
stop it.
No,
Ugh.
and she did
Off
it
the
in
nail.
both.
Oh.
The reason why I recognized her when she was with another beau was because I remember that licking of the nail file. It was so nasty, and you just kept looking at it because you just wanted to bath.
Yeah.
got
Thank you for that.
Nasty.
required to submit those to BCI.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Whole line read because I am a sharer and a carer.
And we're going to hear from BCI tomorrow, but what is BCI?
BCI is the Bureau of Criminal Investigations and Identification. They are a crime lab that is comprised of forensic scientists, chemists, biologists, and the alike, to where they can then examine any type of DNA evidence with regards to this case to make a determination of origin for identification, elimination, or exclusion purposes. They actually are the ones that examine it on a chemical or biological level and make that determination.
Okay. And I assume that you would have to consult or talk with somebody at BCI before certain evidence is taken by them and tested. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did you attempt to submit those fingernail clippings and scrapings of the defendant Toby Madden to BCI?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And how did that work out, or how did that go?
It was BCI's determination that they would not accept the defendant's fingernail clippings or scrapings.
Why is that?
When outlining the details of the investigation to them and how the defendant was found by responding officers and what his actions were, it was their determination that they would likely find the deceased victim's DNA on his fingernail clippings or scrapings that might not necessarily be of evidentiary value.
For instance, if you're trying to perform CPR, that could cause that. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right, so I assume at some point you respond to 1270 Parish Avenue to undertake or partake in a search warrant that's being executed?
Yes, after I assisted Detective Horton with the collection of evidence from the defendant in a couple of different forms, I then responded to the scene at 1270 Parish Avenue.
Okay. And I assume before going to the scene at 1270 Parish Avenue, you would have cleaned up from doing the fingernail scrapings and clippings of the defendant, is that correct?
That is correct,
Okay.
yes.
And what was the reason, or why did you go to 1270 Parish Avenue on that particular day?
I was contacted by Detective Huckey, who you heard from earlier in the week, about something he observed within the bathroom of the residence, and he requested some additional assistance with processing what could be evidence there.
Okay. Tell us about your observations in regards to the bathroom at 1270 Parish Avenue.
Correct. So there was one bathroom at 1270 Parish Avenue. It is on the same floor as the living room of the residence, above the basement. And I observed that within the sink in the bathroom were some red stains, some partially dry and some partially wet.
And what did that mean to you, or what did that mean to you?
So the observation that I made was that there was an apparent attempt to clean, rinse, or wash something within the sink of this bathroom.
Okay. If I may approach the witness, Your Honor.
You may.
Nobody states exhibits 70 through 78. Detective, I'm going to have you look at 70 through 78, and I'm going to ask you a question collectively about all of them.
Yes.
You got a chance to go through them?
Yes, I have reviewed State's Exhibit 70 through 78.
Thank you, Detective. Just generally speaking, what are 70 through 78? What are those pictures?
It's a series of photographs that I took of the sink in the bathroom, of the floor underneath the sink in the bathroom, both before and after processing methods that I employed at the scene.
Okay. Do all those photographs truly, fairly, and accurately depict what it is you saw in the bathroom sink that day on October 11, 2022 at 1270 Parish Avenue?
Yes, sir, they do.
I'd ask for 78 through 78 to be admitted and permission to publish.
Any objection?
No.
Okay, they'll be admitted and they may be published.
All right. Honor, given the nature of these photos, I request that the lights be turned off. So we hold it. All right, Detective, if you would, either you could stay seated there or with the court's permission, I believe there is a pointer. What is it that we're looking at here in State's Exhibit 70, sir?
State's Exhibit 70 shows the sink, one sink, it's a pedestal sink, within the bathroom at the residence.
I can't get past. They have that. Isn't that one of those you normally use for ingesting El Rocco? That type of lighter. Why would you have a lighter in your bathroom?
I mean,
Well, if you're
there's
smoking on
smoke.
yeah, but wouldn't it be near your toilet that you don't stand at your sink and smoke? You'll sit on the toilet, right?
I mean, people who smoke usually have lighters everywhere. My mom always did.
Yeah, but why don't you leave it at the toilet? Because you'll have a smoke when you sit down on the toilet. You don't stand by the sink and smoke.
Who knows?
Sorry, Jamie. I thought you, with your extensive
No,
history
I
of
don't.
drug abuse, knew about that.
I don't know how drug people do this sort of things.
Of course, Danny T knows. I know a lot of weed smokers that use that.
There you go.
Yeah. Thank you, Danny, for always knowing the CDP. That's why she's
I would
hiding
need them
out
for
there.
all my candles, like in my house. So I don't know.
The three places it's not okay to smoke is in the kitchen, the bedroom, and the bathroom. Don't have to turn around, I suppose, if it's not on the back of the toilet. No, but then leave it on the other side of on the sink, because the toilet is over here. I don't know why I get hung up on details.
1270 Parish Avenue.
I don't know.
And do you think it would be easier to use a pointer to step down and point to different things that you're observing or
Sure,
circles?
I don't mind.
With court's permission.
This is the sink at 1270 Parish Avenue. Again, it's a pedestal sink. It's the lone sink in the bathroom, and this is the only bathroom in the residence. This is a picture of the sink before any processing methods were employed by
I'm not
myself.
picking
Where
against
you
you.
can see we have
Mhm.
a lighter. This is a multi-purpose cleaner. Remnants of what would be a bar of soap. That's an air freshener or a spray. This is deodorant, and that's a toothbrush. But my observations were on the red stains within the sink that were both within the bowl and on the rim of said sink.
Okay. Thank you, sir. And then 71.
This is, again, a more close-up view of the bowl of the sink, outlining what would be, from my perspective, the left side, and in more detail, some of the red stains that I observed.
Okay. And what did the red stains appear to you to be?
It appeared to be blood.
72.
This is the right half on the bowl of the same sink, again with the same red stains. And as you can see, there are the same appearance of the stains on the rim of the sink.
Thank you, Detective. 73.
73 is a photograph of the sink with a test that I used at the crime scene. My observations of this sink are that it appears to be blood, But I have to be able to confirm my observations of what I observed. So I used what is known as Identihim. It is manufactured by Brewsaugh Forensics. Identihim is a test that I can use that will presumptively tell me if this blood in the sink is human blood. I used a different test because we have a human victim at the scene. I had to use a test to identify the difference between human and animal blood. And that is what I did. I used Identihim that gave me a presumptive positive result that from the swabs that I took on the rim of the bowl in this location was human blood.
Thank you, sir. And 74.
This is a close-up photograph of the Identihim test showing that I performed the test correctly as indicated by the line over the C for control, meaning I did perform the test correctly as indicated by my training and the instructions of the kit, but also a line through T, which is the test. That tells me, after I waited a period of not more than 10 minutes, gave me the indication that what I had applied and administered to this test was, in fact, human blood.
75.
75 is an overall photo of the sink after the test. I removed it from the rim of the sink because I was getting ready to conduct another test to verify my observations.
76, please.
76 is the floor underneath the sink here. As you can see, it appears to be fairly free of any red staining. I did not observe it.
And then I should probably take you back to 75. And I will have you identify the swab here in a second, which would be State's Exhibit 231. But where on this particular exhibit did you swab to get State's Exhibit 231 that you're about to see?
Yes, so I swabbed, after I performed the Identihim test to tell me that what I believed in the sink was blood and was confirmed presumptively positive as being human blood, I took another swab for evidence collection purposes to be sent to BCI. And I took that swab from the rim of the bowl in this location.
And why did you pick that location?
Because this location on the rim of the bowl appeared to have the most amount of evidence that I could collect. I can't collect all the swabs and be able to differentiate between individually all of them. But I have to be able to have a sufficient amount to collect for DNA examination and analysis. So I collected from this location because that's where it appeared to be most.
Okay. I can probably have you take a seat. So here, I appreciate that. If I may approach the witness, Your Honor.
You may.
Get well soon, Deputy Mac.
If I can have you identify the State's Exhibit 231, please.
State's Exhibit 231 are the blood swabs from the bathroom sink that I collected.
Okay. With court's permission, if I can put that over to you.
Commissioner Green.
We're going through another one of these. We got the guy, the test.
I assume during your evidence collection there, if the same dude wearing gloves of some kind?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And what sort of item do you use in order to swab? So what sort of item did you use in order to swab this particular sample?
I used cotton swabs that were sterile. They're prepackaged and they're not out in the open like Q-tips. So they're sterile cotton swabs. I
I'll
applied,
ask for 231 be admitted with permission to publish.
Any objection?
No.
Okay, it'll be admitted and it can be published.
With the court's permission, if you'd like to step down
Sure.
closer to the jury.
Granted.
You can show them.
these are prepackaged sterile cotton swabs. You get from a medical supplier or a person supplier of the company package. They are sealed, and in order to collect the evidence that I collected from the bathroom sink, what I did was I applied 2 drops of distilled water to each cotton swab, because again, some of the stains are dry, some them away. And then I swab the red stains from the sink with the cotton swabs. Package them back into this container, and immediately place them in an envelope and seal that envelope.
Thank you, sir. So after collecting those particular swabs, 231, did you do any other tests, investigative type tests on the sink?
Yes, I did.
Okay. What else did you do?
So based off my observations with an unaided eye, I suspected there to be more evidence of blood within or around the sink that had been rinsed, washed, or cleaned up in some manner. And so I then applied a product known as Blue Star. Some of the jurors may know that as luminol, but for clear distinction purposes for court record, I use the product Blue Star.
What is Blue Star?
So Blue Star is a successor to luminol. The jurors have ever seen any type of crime documentaries or CSI shows, you might know this as where if blood is suspected to have been cleaned up at a crime scene, they spray this and it fluoresces blue, generally speaking, okay? Blue Star is what I used. It is the successor of luminol. It's a little bit more sensitive, provides a more intense fluorescent reaction that you can better document, and it does not interfere with DNA analysis. I applied Blue Star, okay?
And to be clear, you applied the Blue Star after you had taken the DNA swab?
Yes, sir, I did.
So
Yes. Even though it doesn't interfere with any type of DNA analysis, I decided to do it after collecting the swabs, just so there would be no argument of interference. And that is why it was conducted last.
Is there any sort of training you go through in order to use the item Blue Star?
Yes.
Tell us about that if you would.
So again, through my certifications of crime scene photography, evidence technician, bloodstain pattern analysis, my IAI certification, and my master evidence tech certification, not only have I been instructed, educated, used the product Blue Star, but have also been questioned about my knowledge, working knowledge of the product, to be able to receive these certifications and apply this product in an actual crime scene and not just in a training environment.
In a State's Exhibit, did you do that in this particular case?
Yes, I did.
State's Exhibit 77, please.
No, that's the luminol that I think, as Phoebe said, the Blue Star isn't as prone to false positives. But again, I'm pretty sure that I have nicked myself shaving and stuff like that in my bathroom. It's his bathroom. He lives there. Oh, maybe he didn't live there. But he had slept there at least. The daughter was a little in and out about that. But and again, if he's a drug user, there's a high probability his blood would be present.
Oh, what are we looking at here in State's Exhibit 77, Detective?
State's Exhibit 77 is the same sink
actual
in the
color.
same bathroom at the same residence at 1270 Parish Avenue. After I conducted my identity test for the presumptive positive reaction of human blood being present, after collecting the swabs
Look at all those
sterilely,
colors.
I applied Blue Star within the sink, and it gave me an indication that there had been more blood within the sink than what I was able to view with my unaided eye.
So the bright fluorescent type light, is that where it's indicating to you the blood had been?
Yes. So when you apply Blue Star, you get what's known as a chemoluminescent reaction. A chemical reacts with the hemoglobin that's in blood. And when that reaction occurs, it gives off this fluorescent reaction of a what they call a high intensity blue fluorescence.
Okay. 78, please.
This is a photograph where I was standing on or in the bathtub within that bathroom. And having applied it to the sink, I suspected that there may have been blood elsewhere within that bathroom. And when I applied it to
I like that. Blood elsewhere.
Ew.
the floor directly underneath the sink, I got another indication of where there could have been blood at some point in relation to this.
Thank you, sir. All right, if I may approach you over.
May.
State's Exhibit 217. Your Honor, I believe that's been previously admitted.
Yes.
What did you do with State's Exhibit 217, which is the brighter green shirt that was taken from the defendant on October 11, 2022?
So this is State's Exhibit 217. It was recovered from the defendant, as you saw on the photograph of him previously during my testimony that he was wearing. Collected as evidence. And it was submitted to BCI for further examination and DNA analysis.
Did you do a swab of State's Exhibit 217?
I did not do a swab. I submitted the entire shirt.
Okay.
Scratches, no open wounds.
And did you have an opportunity to examine what I would call a Swiss Army knife or a utility type knife?
Yes, I did.
Let me approach your Honor. I believe previously admitted State's Exhibit 215.
Yes.
State's Exhibit 215.
State's Exhibit 215 is a red colored, in general terms, Swiss Army knife.
Yes, it was found right next to where she was found in some crown molding.
It's a multi-tool pocket knife, of which I was present for its discovery and recovery.
That was recovered from 1270 Parish Avenue.
It was.
Okay. And then did you have an opportunity to photograph that particular knife?
Yes, I did.
Okay. If I may approach your Honor.
May.
You can put that back in the box. I'm going to have you look at 147 through 157.
Okay.
And generally speaking, what are we looking at there in State's Exhibit 147 through 157?
So State's Exhibit 147 through 157 are close-up photographs that I took on a macroscopic level of the
It's because he's wearing his lapel mic today, so whenever he gets close to another mic, it'll interfere.
Swiss Army knife, if you would, and the 2 blade attachments that were within the knife.
All those photographs, they truly fairly and accurately depict what the knife looked like as you're examining it.
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, I would ask that 147 through 157 be admitted and permission to publish.
Any objection?
No objection.
Okay, they'll be admitted and they may be published.
And what are we looking at here in State's Exhibit 147? And again, you could either point on the screen, you can circle, or if you'd like to stand up and point, whatever is easiest for you. Obviously, with the court's permission.
Certainly.
No, State's Exhibit 147, as depicted in the photo above, is just the Swiss Army knife, and in the condition it was found, folded, all attachments folded within itself.
148, please.
148, same knife, but 1 blade attachment has been retracted, and you can see it there on the right side of the photograph.
And then 149, please.
And 149 is the second blade attachment that has been retracted and is on the left half of the photograph.
And 150, please.
So 150 is the smaller blade attachment, if you would. It's about 1.5 inches in length. It has a distinct appearance because it appears initially that it looks as if it was a can opener attachment, because there appears to be that kind of design and appearance. Furthermore, on this photograph particularly, you can see what appears to be some type of residue on the knife, as if it had been washed or rinsed in some manner.
Do we know, is that blade, was it made that way, or is that a chunk that's missing out of it?
Yeah, so I gave that description because that's what it initially appears to look like. However, when you look up the actual manufacture of this knife, this blade is defected. This is actually a piece of the blade that is missing. It's not a can opener attachment. And you can see that more closely when you start to examine, as you can see, if it works with my glove or not. As you can see around the grooves within the blade, they're not smooth, they are rigid, they're jagged, and you can kind of see that there has been something that has caused this blade to be broken in some manner.
Thank you, Detective. State's Exhibit 151.
So this is the opposite side of the same blade, and you can see more clearly where the piece that's missing from the blade has been broken off.
And what other visual observations were you able to make about State's Exhibit 151?
Again, that this other side of the blade.
We will have more witnesses tomorrow.
Were washed.
And what do you see as indicating that to you?
As you can see, appears to be some type of residue, the appearance of water residue. I don't know if it's specifically water residue, but some type of solution or liquid that has left behind a residue on both sides of this blade attachment.
And 153, I'm sorry, 152, please.
This is the second blade attachment, the longer blade attachment of the same knife. As photographed, as you can see, it appears to be intact, not missing any pieces, and there doesn't appear to be any initial signs of rinsing or washing of this blade.
153, please.
On this side of the same blade attachment, again, intact, not defected, you can see.
Yes, but it's only been played once in court since then. And I don't know if this stabulator was found, because this was found in her purse. The other stabulator was found in the room.
That there might be some residue of rinsing or washing on this side of the blade.
154.
So 154 is the defected blade attachment, the first one, the shorter one that's about inch and a half in length. I applied an alternate light source. It's a blue light, if you would, at about 450 nanometers in length. I then photographed it using an orange light because I wanted to see if there was any type of fluorescent reaction on the blade that might give me any type of indication. And after this photograph, you can see more readily that everything that's fluorescing here appears to be from some type of rinse or wash of the blade.
And what sort of light are you using?
It's an alternate light source. In general terms, it is a blue light, a forensic blue light that can fluoresce hairs, fibers. It will show the appearance of blood, but the blood will turn up darker if exposed to the alternate light source. But in order to view this type of evidence, you have to use an orange filter. And in this case, I applied an orange lens to my camera and captured the photograph.
Your Honor, if I may, can I go up and access the exhibits?
Sure.
Yeah.
And we're looking at 155.
155 is the opposite side of the same blade attachment, the defected blade attachment. Again, with the application of an alternate light source, blue light source, with an orange lens in place to view the results.
And what are we seeing on that blade?
We're seeing, again, you have a fluorescent reaction of where there appears to be some type of rinse or wash of the blade in some manner, as indicated by the fluorescence observed.
And state's exhibits.
Well, you missed the coroner telling us about every stab wound to the body, and I took it off screen, but I got to see her heart, her lungs, and her liver. It hasn't
Yeah.
been the best of days. You want to say something, Jamie, before I start it back up?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
156.
56 is the longer second blade attachment that is intact. Again, with the application of a blue forensic light, 450 nanometers, as viewed through an orange lens. And you can see that there doesn't appear to be, on this side of the blade, any apparent indications of it having been washed or rinsed.
And 157.
157, same blade attachment, opposite side, same application of the blue light source at the same wavelength as viewed through the orange lens and captured by this photograph. Again, there doesn't appear to be any observation on the other side of this blade of any rinsing or washing.
Is that right if I return?
Sure.
All right, so state's exhibit 215, this was on the knife. Did you attempt to swab that in any way?
No.
Okay. And why didn't you?
This is what I would consider a critical piece of evidence. Sometimes when we take swabs of an item, we can interfere with the more intricate analysis of DNA examinations conducted by the state crime lab. Having known this to be a critical piece of evidence, I packaged the knife as securely and sterilely as possible and submitted the entire knife to BCI for them to swab in a more sterile environment to be able to yield the best results.
And I may approach the witness.
You may.
Well, you have to wrap it up. 13 minutes till closing.
Yeah, come on.
We haven't heard about that.
13.
Ruth, that's because whenever they present stuff on the screen, I put it up so you can better see it, because I know a lot of you are on small screens, and you can better see what they're talking about. They did, every one of them.
State's Exhibit 213. You want me to explain what it is?
Yes, please.
State's Exhibit 213 is another pocket knife that was located in the residence, of which I was present for its discovery and recovery. This one specifically was recovered from the top of what I refer to as a china cabinet that had been positioned atop. So somebody had placed it up top there, but we had found the china cabinet had fallen over or placed in some manner, and this was still within that location.
Okay. And did you do any testing on that particular knife?
I did the same process as the Swiss Army knife by photographing it up close, both in its natural state. It has two attachments. One looks more like a cleaver, and one, which folds in the same manner, it's not in the opposite manner like the Swiss Army knife, appears more like a traditional blade. I photographed this in their natural state, and with the application of the blue light source, at 450 nanometers and viewed through an orange lens.
Okay. And did you make any observations or findings?
Yes.
This knife, to me, appeared to have been free of any type of disruption.
Okay. But nonetheless, both the Swiss Army knife and the knife that you have in your hand, those both were ultimately sent up to BCI for testing. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, they were.
Okay.
Yeah, I like all the expert they have brought in so far has been highly. I really like Lord Daddy, Cop Daddy yesterday, because he was open and honest with the defense as well. I like this. I like this case with the witnesses we've seen so far.
I'll have you go ahead and put that back in there. Thank you.
And again, I did not take any swabs from that knife. The knife itself was packaged and sent up to BCI.
Okay. I believe what's been previously admitted is State's Exhibit 211. If I may push on it.
You may.
Detective, what are we looking at here in State's Exhibit 211?
Sorry to interrupt, but 211 I had is being identified but not admitted. Are you going to offer that for admission at this time?
Yes, please.
Okay. Any objection to that?
No.
Okay, that'll be admitted.
I apologize. I thought we had shown this to the jury.
I think we did show it, but I don't think we officially admitted it.
You want me to stand up and show them?
Yes. Again, what are we looking at here in State's Exhibit 211? Please?
I apologize. Some of these identifiers over time have just fallen off that I placed. 211 is, for the record, what we identified as a green jacket, but it is more of a vest style jacket.
Okay. That's what was found in the basement of 1270 Parish Avenue?
Yes, it was.
Okay. And thank you, sir. And then I believe your exhibit book is already up there on your desk. So I'm going to ask you to look at State's Exhibits 110 through 137.
One 110 through 137.
Yes, sir. generally speaking, what are states exhibits 110 through 137?
States Exhibit 110 through 137 are photographs that I collected of the same green vest style jacket that I presented before you, indicating.
Yes, they didn't show much of it on screen, thank God for that. But if you go to Lawn and Crim or Court TV, you'll probably be able to see the same pictures I saw of the heart, the lungs, and the liver. I wouldn't recommend it. I'm not a squeamish guy, but I almost gagged.
Areas where I believed additional evidence was located on the jacket itself.
Okay. Are those true, fair, and accurate depictions of the green vest in those photographs that you took?
Yes, they are.
Your Honor, I'd ask that 110 through 137 be admitted and permission to publish.
Any objection?
No.
They'll be admitted and they may be published.
All right, so generally speaking, what sort of observations are you making about this particular green vest?
One of the options I made in particular was that, as you can see on the front, beneath the left center pocket on the chest, one observation is there appears to be some sort of defect or cut in the fabric, if you would. But also, when examining this closer, as you'll see in further exhibits 110 through 37, is there are a series of red stains that are present on the front side of this jacket. I have marked 3 for your vision, but there are actually 5, which you'll see in more detail.
All right, thank you, Detective. States Exhibit 111, please.
This is the back side of the same green style vest. Just as a general observation, I kind of observed what appeared to be marks on the back side of the vest. But more specifically, what drew my attention was over here, underneath what would be the left armpit, is when you see in a further states exhibit through this same series, there is a dry, flaky red substance that I was able to collect.
112.
This is a close-up version of what I thought may have been some type of markings on the back side of that green style vest.
113.
This is a continuation of the back side of that vest, of just the markings.
114.
So 114 is the front of that same green vest, and I have noted with the arrows, as you can see, there are 5 larger red stains that were apparent with my unaided eye on the front of the vest.
Okay. 115.
And this is the back side of the same vest, where underneath that left armpit, I previously indicated, as observed in this state's exhibit, where I collected further evidence.
116.
This is just showing a little bit more closely what I am identifying through the arrows, numbered 1 through 5. You can see red stainings. We'll get to those up there that were observed on the front side of that green jacket.
117.
This is just another picture of the front of that same vest jacket. You can see marker number 2 and marker number 4 in more detail than compared to State's Exhibit 116.
118.
And again, this is just going up the front of the vest. You can see on the center pocket there on the left side of the chest, number 3, there's some red staining that is apparent there.
119.
This is the back side of the green vest, marker number 6, where I indicated I collected the dry, flaky red substance from the back side of that vest.
120.
This is a close-up photograph of marker number 1, red staining on the green style vest.
121.
Just another close-up. As you can see, there's discoloration there. It's a red stain.
122.
This is a close-up photograph of two things. I am identifying the red stain by marker number 2 that is surrounding the cut or tear in the fabric of that green vest.
123.
It's a close-up photograph kind of showing you a little bit more of the red staining over that same cut as identified as marker number 2 in this exhibit.
124.
Just a close-up photograph of the chest pocket and the staining that I observed over the zipper and the pocket itself.
125.
More closely, close-up photograph of what my observation was.
126.
Marker number 4, it is, if you're facing it, to the left of number 2. Again, discoloration, red staining on that green vest.
127.
Close-up photograph of identifier number 4, same clothing.
And 128.
So identifier number 5, again, of some of the red staining that I observed on the right side of the same clothing item.
129.
An additional close-up photograph of the same identifier.
And 130.
This is the back side of that green vest. Identifier number 6 in this exhibit. You can see there is what I'm trying to identify.
131.
And that is a close-up photograph of the red stain. It was dry, flaky. I was able to collect it by scraping it from that jacket with a sterile scalpel.
132. Actually, let me take you back. Let me take you back to 131.
Sure.
So at some point, I assume that you collected some samples from this particular vest, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And if I can approach the witness, Your Honor.
You may. I would just caution you that we are running out of time, so I'm not sure when a good time to break is, but we're going to have to recess for the afternoon.
Okay. Would you like us to approach?
Yes, let's do that.
Yeah, this is again poor time management. So
Come on, let's chip chop
yeah,
chip.
it's taking way too long. EDB said she met with Netflix advocate for All About being stricken. If you're going to strike one, then you have to strike all. Just don't bother and stop striking. Well, I just saw Recovery Addict said he had his Sinclair group claim lifted. So I've written him today and asked
Pierce
him.
said now we are a good time for us to recess, ladies and gentlemen. So we're going to go ahead and do that. And we will have the same schedule tomorrow. We'll come in at 9, work through noon, and then you'll be released for the afternoon. And please remember my recess instructions. Okay?
Or
See.
may we approach?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, sorry.
Just a minute.
They promised us state will be done tomorrow, and now they couldn't even do this.
Yeah, they said they'll be done by noon tomorrow. They said.
Yeah, but she had that lifted a long time. I've written her back then, and they said they would take my my stuff with them, but I haven't. I still have the same strike. So, and Marissa have tried to get in contact with Sinclair Group, and it hasn't done anything. So, I'm going to hope that Recovery Addict. I think he threatened them with a lawyer, which would be hard for me to do because I don't live in the US. I have contacted EDB. As I just said, I've written her, and they said they would use my information as well. Well, I'm just hoping that when I open up, they'll also do it for me, but I'm too small. I don't have a personal contact at YouTube. I wasted 3 hours, even though it's illegal to do what Sinclair Group did to me.
Before we recess, it appears that we are getting a little bit behind, and there has been a suggestion that we would come in at 8:30 tomorrow. Is everybody able to do that, or is that too inconvenient for everyone? I hate to put anybody on the spot, but if there's anybody that can't come in or does not want to come in at 8:30, since I told you 9, can I see a hand? Okay, I don't see any hands, so let's do 8:30 instead of 9 so we can keep on track with our trial, okay? So thank you for your consideration with that, and I'll see you at 8:30 tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
The jurors have been excused from the courtroom before we recess. Is there anything on behalf of the state?
Just for clarification, what are the orders, Detective Trenum? Yeah, he's probably not allowed to talk to any of the parties involved here, or?
If you want to be heard on that request.
I'm just asking what the right rules are. I don't.
Judge, I'm going to have, Mr. Madden is speaking to me as well. I'm sorry, I did not.
My question is, what would Detective Trenum's rules be? Is he allowed to talk to either one of us, or I don't know that he's necessarily allowed to? Because he's technically still on the stand.
Yeah, I would caution that. I think he needs to treat this as if no contact with anybody until he's back up there.
It sounds like we're in agreement with that, so Detective, I would ask you that you please not talk with anyone about the case between now and the time they come back at 8:30. And I thank you for your patience with us and breaking early and coming back.
Yes, understood, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right, we'll see everyone tomorrow. Oh, sorry, anything from your behalf, Mr. Wilder?
Yes, Judge, my client just indicated that, since we're on the record, he said he hasn't had a shower yet. So
4 days. 4
I
days.
know that's not the judge's responsibility, but
But I
I'm
know
just
that- but-
mentioning it. I know that could be.
I haven't had a shower in 4 days. I haven't been able to shave. They won't give me the commissary that I purchased. I'm in a cell 24 hours a day. 24 hours a day of lockdown, but I'd like to have a
You're
shower.
court.
I don't have any control over the jail's policies.
Is there
It's noted
anyone
for the
that can
record,
go?
and you've heard the.
I mean, they
request started
wrote a
earlier.
ticket on me because I asked
Okay,
them
we'll
for
go
a
on.
shower.
Thank you.
That's all I'm asking. Thank you.
Well,
I mean,
you're not
at
in
least
a
give the guy a
self-finished-
shower. Come on.
yeah, don't treat him like shit. Give him a shower when he gets back home today, and put him in and give him his commissary and all of that stuff. Don't treat him inhumane just because he is a massive piece of crap. There's certain rules.
Oh, yeah.
So
Plus, it benefits everybody. Give him a shower.
yeah, she can order that, but again, it shouldn't be necessary because even if he is the biggest piece of carapiola, he has his basic rights like everyone else. That's why whenever people are saying, "Well, they should just shut up," he has his right to an defense and his basic human rights, even in prison. So it's just stupid because it'll just give him more stuff to complain about.
Exactly.
So yeah.
So they're having a half day tomorrow too.
Yes, we'll start 8:30 tomorrow, and we'll do a half a day tomorrow. I have to get to building my all the stuff I
Shelves.
bought from IKEA. But I thought I'll have a day off now because I thought everything would be done.
Nah.
Yeah, no days off. But
No days off the baker.
yeah. I know there was a Sarah Boone-esque hearing. Sorry, I mentioned her doggo. A Sarah Boone-esque hearing yesterday. It wasn't with Sarah Boone. It was just about her lawyers getting paid. It's a little short one. There was also 25 pages, not 25, 5 pages filed again to try and suppress evidence. I haven't gotten them yet, so I haven't looked at it. But if I get it and there's anything in there, because Jamie, you know I'm a reasonable person, right?
You can be. I saw that face.
I really don't get those people who think that Sarah Boone switching to a self-defense says, "Oh, that's such a smart move."
No, that's a terrible move.
It's
mean,
but people really think that defense will work, and I'm sitting here thinking, is it because I'm stupid, or is it
I don't
because
know.
don't I see it? Well,
I feel like
Jenny is getting real mad. You have it.
well, I don't know how they're gonna do it, but like maybe they think that they can really get up there and paint her as a sympathetic person, and she was just so abused, and I don't know. It's not gonna look good.
No, again, they're just going to play those 3 videos and say state rests.
Well, yeah. I mean, because then you get into the video, and then the only way to explain it away is put her on the stand, and
Yeah, and yeah, and but that's why they're trying to kick out the videos. And no, the Miranda doesn't save you from your own stupidity. You voluntarily disclosed all this. It was an accident. Now you're going to say, well, he was coming at me while he was in the suitcase, so I unalived him. I fell asleep. It was an accident, not intentional, but I intentionally did it to protect myself.
yeah,
Just,
like I was scared for
but-
my life, so I didn't let him out.
Yeah, but I saw people on Twitch starting to believe those streamers who's saying, well, it could work. Yeah, this guy tried to use we were reenacting West Side Story. And that defense, I don't think that works either. I have to be honest.
I mean,
At
based
least
off
you're
of
gonna
her
make
statements, the video that we have, I don't know how they're going to get by with, oh, he was threatening. Because I assume she's going to say, like, oh, he was threatening me. So I was terrified to let him out of the suitcase.
Yeah.
But see, you don't see that on the video. After I took the video and I was mocking him and being nasty, he was threatening me and I was terrified. Like,
Yeah.
I don't
Jamie,
know how
we
you
have
put two
our
and two
guest back.
together. Hey,
Hi, I'm here. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, that was a big waste of time after the break. Well, we saw all the luminol, but that's
I will
about
say
it.
though, the jurors were really into that, especially like the male jurors. They were all leaned in and they were engaged and nodding, and they really liked that second guy, the Detective Trial Daddy Jr. I can hardly hear you guys.
Well, I just boosted your audio all the way up because you're low as well. So
Sorry.
she cut out on my end, so I didn't even hear. What's happening?
No, but you never
So-
listen, Jamie.
Okay, so I'll tell you guys a little bit about like the jurors prior to the break. So juror 1, she's kind of young. She takes notes on everything. She is really invested, and she was visibly affected by the autopsy photos, and she's kind of right behind the camera stand, and she like sneaks little peeks at Michaela, the daughter, but she waits until Michaela's not looking. She's really like quick about it. Let's see. Juror number 6 is a woman, and at first I thought, oh, she's very corporate, but the way I could tell by like the look on her face and what she nods to, I think she might be in the medical field. She nods a lot when she's nodding a lot with the forensic pathologist, like almost like she knew what he was going to say before he said it. But she was for some reason really into the information about the blood card, which I thought was interesting. Let's see. Juror 1, Juror 11, Stevie Nicks. She has clear disdain for Toby and his attorney. Told you guys she was crying. When the defense attorney asks like the dumb questions, like when he was like showing like the stabbing motion, she like rolled her eyes, and it appears that she was looking at Michaela. But all of them kind of have like their own times that they sneak peeks at the daughter. Let's see. The juror 7, the skeptic juror, she really does not seem to kind of buy anything that the second guy was saying. She seemed pretty judgy of him. She was shaking her head and kind of like looked like something smelled under, she was like that kind of the whole time. So there's 2 guys, they look like they could be brothers, but one of them is bald. He looks more like a Mr. Holland's Opus, and the other one just kind of has like a comb over, but they're both incredibly stoic. So they're really hard to read, but they did start taking a lot of notes with the second guy. Like the jury loved him. I don't know if it was because he got up and moved around but they really enjoyed him a lot. Let's see.
Well, his inflections on some of the words kind of came off as like he was right. He was trying to get on a CSI show or something like that.
I kind of wonder if he's like that all the time, or if it was because I didn't realize he was the next witness and I was talking to him, and so he knew that we were all watching him. And I was wondering when he was talking, I was like, is he putting on a show for us? Like, I couldn't tell, but he did. I agree.
Can you talk to him and say, could you drop the Broken Baker tomorrow?
The what?
Just that they can drop the Broken Baker name a few times.
Oh yeah, I should. I should see if we can get like a code word for them to use.
You can say this knife is as broken as my favorite YouTuber, the Broken Baker, or something like that.
Oh, I hope he doesn't say you like cut it on like a piece of your stale bread or something. That would be bad for business.
Yeah, but just it's the grift. I need to keep it going.
We all have to grift somehow, don't we? I mean, look at me. I drove all the way to Hamilton to grift. So
hopefully, hopefully there's a good sandwich spot or something there.
Well, we'll see. So tomorrow is another half day, right?
Yeah.
Did you want me to come back tomorrow?
If you I don't want anything. I like having
you
the
can just say yes.
No, because I don't pay you for this. So
well, no,
I don't know.
I know, but if it's something that you guys are interested in, I could do it again. I am a little nervous about being here at 8:30 in the morning, but I think I can figure it out. The family was not happy about having to be here at 8:30 in the morning, though. I can tell you that.
Well, it's hard when you have that odeur de dispensary about you.
Listen, so she was like an older woman. She came in. She was in like a motorized like chair thing, and I don't know if you've ever driven one of those, but they're kind of hard to control. And so like when she came through the door, she like came through super fast. So everyone turned and looked, and then also I seriously, I think she had Law and Crime blaring from her phone when she came in, because it sounded, like they were about 45 seconds behind what was actually going on in court. Oh, hi, Gailey. We're best friends, she and I. Well, we pretend to be. We're YouTube best friends. Did anyone have any specific questions? I can't hear anything.
No, well, you can't hear the questions. I can only read them.
Oh my God.
Laura is saying she's voting for you. And anyone has any questions, please put them in chat. They're 10 seconds. You have to learn on YouTube. Whenever I say something, chat will see it in 10 seconds. And so sometimes you're communicating and people
I
saying,
forget about that. Yeah,
why didn't you?
This is my first time being live, so I'm a little nervous.
Well,
and it was pretty toasty in there, so I'm glad I got to wear my sunglasses, because I'm kind of looking like Tammy Faye Baker under this. My makeup is like melting.
Is she another woman I apparently had a relationship with? Like Emily D. Baker?
All right, well, so we're probably good on questions then, you think?
No, just give them 5 seconds, because I know my chat. They start. Yes, of course. Marissa, could you smell Toby?
Was he stinky? Yeah, was he stinky?
I did not. But the sheriff, who's like directly behind him, had on pretty loud cologne, so I couldn't really smell anything past that. I mean, when we came back after break, I moved up a row, or 2 rows, so I was in front of the family off to the side. So at that point, I was directly behind the sheriff. But the sheriff, either way, was between me and Toby, and he had pretty strong cologne. He's ripped, that guy. Does Trial Daddy smell good? He didn't smell like hot dog water, which is what I initially thought. But he didn't have a smell. He looks like he needed a shower. He looks pretty tired. Did the daughter leave after she blurted out? She did not. But there were several times where you could see it kind of like, when I was sitting behind her, you could see it like welling up inside of her. And she would, it was almost like she would catch it to put it, you know what I mean? So.
Laura has a good question. Were there any more outbursts outside of the camera that happened today?
Well, just him losing his mind over not having a shower. Did you guys hear? Was that on at the end?
Yeah, that was on. He asked the judge, because when it's on the record, they will tape it. But when it's not, then that's when they. So when he got in this morning, they didn't turn the audio on because it's not on the record.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't say good morning to anyone when he walked in this morning. Immediately, he was just like, I need a shower. It's been 4 days. It was funny because it's so clear that his daughter is disgusted with him. However, when he complains, he turns around and looks at her like he wants her to do something, or maybe he's like trying to get her sympathy, but she's not having any of it. But he go ahead.
You got in a little bit late at the break. And when the camera got on, he was mean mocking the crowd again. The way he stands up and looks at them, I think he's mean mocking. I don't know if the family or whoever it is he's mean mocking, but he looks so angry when he looks down at the gallery.
I did notice that the people who came in late So there were two sets of people who came in late. And the first set that came in late, he immediately, as soon as they came in, he started like with like you could just see shame where that was even before the pictures were being shown. So he was, turning his head again and just like hiding. And I think it was them in particular that he has issues with. Because like you could just see it, and they're clearly very close with his daughter because they like scooted past everyone and plopped down on either side of her. And
Probably the mom's
of, like,
family then.
But they were young. They looked like maybe one of them definitely looked like she was probably still in high school, and the other one looked like she's maybe barely just graduated. They were young, but he did not like them one bit. It was very clear. How does the daughter seem? Is she holding up? She is. I think she is. It's really, you can tell when certain things affect her. She hates her dad. She hates him, and she says it loudly, not so under her breath, like loud enough I could hear it. Okay, so I missed that last one. Do you
have a license for that blonde hair, young lady?
Actually, I do. I'm a licensed cosmetologist.
Oh, Jamie, your first guest for Beauty on a Budget.
Come get me, Jamie. Come get me.
One day.
Jamie, the talk of the town. Dollar store diva, she's holding it down. In thrift shop heels and vintage shine. Looking like a million, but all on a dime. She don't need a crown or gold to gleam. Fashion on a budget, living the dream. With every step, she's turning heads. Slaying the style without breaking the bread. Oh, Jamie, beauty queen on a dime. Stealing hearts without spending a dime. Dollar store.
That'll be.
Jeez, oh, Pete. Ow.
That's pretty good.
I love we come back just as she kicked over something at her house.
Yes, I stubbed my toe. I told you I was rounding the corner in the hallway. I stubbed my toe. Ow.
Is
Okay,
Toby
well,
fit to be tied?
Oh wait, is Toby fit to be tied? I would say all but juror number 7, the skeptic. They all seem ready to write him off. A lot of them just nod along, and like right when the forensic pathologist said, that the manner of death was homicide, before the words came out of his mouth, several of them were like mouthing homicide and shaking their heads. So I think his goose is cooked. I'm not sure he had a full goose to begin with, but whatever it is, it's cooked. Just
show Baker one picture of Tammy Faye Baker crying with all that makeup running down her face. I don't know who Tammy Faye Baker is.
Okay, so she was like the wife of like this why can't I'm trying to add a syllable. I don't know. The people who like scream about God on TV, and she would just pray on TV and just cry, and she wore so much makeup, like her entire face melted. So if she had run into a T-shirt, it would have looked like a Monet painting. Like that's how much makeup she wore. So yeah.
A tele-evangelist.
Oh yeah.
Yes, thank you. I was evangelinist. I don't know. I was just trying to add an extra syllable.
Well, this is the Baker channel. We make up words all the time. But I did make
it's hard to talk sometimes.
I did put up a poll asking, will you force Legally Blonde back tomorrow? 95% says yes.
Okay. For y'all, I guess I'll go. But this was my best outfit, so I can't promise I'm going to look as cute tomorrow.
Well,
but I am going to go.
You and Jamie will have a little talk about. Jamie runs the wardrobe department on this show.
Let's do it.
Oh my Lord.
Just have to drive to Cincinnati to do it.
Well, Jamie,
I heard you went to Cedar Point once. That's pretty far north. But
yeah. Toledo Zoo? That's about as far as I've gone.
Okay, guys, I'm having a hard time hearing you over the Hamilton traffic, which is louder than other traffic because no one has a muffler. So I'm out of here, and I will talk to you guys later and see you in chat. See you later.
Thank you so
Bye.
much for your input, and thank you so much for wasting your time to give us entertainment.
Woohoo.
That's
I
so
mean,
nice.
It's
My brother
fun.
actually had a T-shirt that was smeared makeup with the caption, "I ran into Tammy Faye Baker at the mall." Oh, that's so
Oh no,
cool.
that's funny.
Oh, I want that. I don't know who she is, but I want it now.
That's embarrassing for like
Jamie, do no,
ladies.
you didn't watch comic shows that much when you were a kid. You don't know the Masked TV show, not the one with Jim Carrey, but the show about some guys who saved the Earth. No, it doesn't say anything. I just found a shirt from it today. That I thought, oh, but I think that the company is like one of those Chinese. I'm gonna rip off your credit card, so I don't dare buying them. So
Listen, I have like the best setting spray, so makeup on shirts should never be a problem. Come on, people.
the OG huge eyelash lady. Oh, so that's where Jamie got her style from.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly.
See you later, Adelaide Lass. I saw one of those female basketball player because there's been all that controversial, but about that Caitlin Clark thing, and I was thinking, how the heck can you play basketball with all that makeup, all that fake eyelashes and wigs, and I would kill myself. I sweat enough just sitting still.
I can't imagine a wig would be comfortable, but eyelashes and nails, like, that doesn't bother me so much.
No, but they had that's actually a thing that I thought was against the rules, because I know when I played football on the lowest level you could be in Denmark, we couldn't wear jewelry and stuff like that because you can yank a chain or you can hit someone with your wedding band. Well, you're allowed to have your wedding band on, but you couldn't have like loose chains and stuff like that. And they're
I get
allowed
that.
to play with acrylic nails. You can take an eye out with those.
Well, I mean, I guess if it's a contact sport.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't really in a contact sport, like, but you see a lot of these track and field girls in the Olympics now doing all that, which
Yeah.
I think
That's not my style. Jamie, I will have to go look at the Sarah Boone stuff, and we might I might do a stream later. You might join me.
maybe.
And other than that, we'll be back tomorrow, 8:30-ish a.m. From a.m. to p.m. Why can't I remember that song?
You were just saying it.
Yeah, but there was more. It wasn't just a.m. to p.m. There was more in it, Jamie. So, but we will see you either later or mañana, as it's called in Spanish, Jamie. That means tomorrow.
Oh,
Hasta la taco.
bye.
What exhibit are you referring to? I'm going to make this 100, Your Honor. All right, 100.
100.
Because it is 100%
100%.
correct.
So you literally built a cannon?
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
All
right, I'm in love.
Go back. Please do that again. Oh, that was the cutest thing I've ever seen.
While I'm waiting for this, did you, whether it's true or not, believe that Mr. Randolph had slept with your wife?
I wouldn't have cared.
You wouldn't have cared?
No.
Did you believe he had slept with your wife?
No.
Did you believe he slept with your mother-in-law?
Probably did. Everybody has.
So there-
Everybody has.